Hey everyone, James Labrie from Dream Theater, and you're listening to or watching the podcast Talking into Infinity with JT and Brian. Enjoy this. These guys are extremely informative. I love their dialogue. I love their interpretation of the songs, who and what we are, what we were going after. They're very accurate in their interpretations and descriptions, and I just think this is a great show, and these guys are doing a stand-up stellar job. So once again, enjoy Talking into Infinity with JT and Brian.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Talking into Infinity, a Dream Theater-centric podcast. I am your host, John. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, talkingintoinfinity.com, the CMSnetwork.com, and the CMS Network Rumble page. We are at those locations every other Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live, which we will be doing on an upcoming Saturday for a very special episode. I'm waiting to get the exact date, and then I will officially announce it, but just keep that on your calendar somewhere. Just say Saturday I'm going to watch Talking into Infinity at a weird time. So anyways, if you would like to catch audio replays of the show, just Google Talking into Infinity podcast, and of course all of our video replays are available on our YouTube channel as well as that of the CMS Network. Without further ado, let me bring on somebody I still can't believe I'm doing a show with after all these years, and not for the good reasons, Mr. Brian Hendrickson. What's
Hi,
up, man?
John. Hi, John. Your name's spelled wrong, isn't it? John?
Here we go. I do have to say right off the bat, I look all rosy. It's like I just finished making dinner, and I was standing over a couple skillets in the oven, and I'm like, God, I look like I've been drinking all afternoon. This is ridiculous.
And you haven't actually been drinking since, what, about 5?
Yeah. I stopped a half hour ago. So,
all right, what was on tonight's menu?
I actually made hibachi, shrimp and chicken.
Sorry, you actually thought I cared, but next topic.
All right, well, there you go.
You are actually, you love to cook, though, man. I mean, you like to eat, I think, a little bit, too, I've noticed over the years.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
But you're like a big-time grilling guy, and you like doing meat and everything else, like making your own sausage and all that stuff. Don't you do that, too?
You just said you like doing meat. I'm so glad that our guest host is not on the air yet.
I know.
I'd be getting crushed.
You like doing meat and stuff.
Yes. Yeah. The family makes sausage in bulk every November, so we do that. And yeah, I do a lot of grilling. I prefer charcoal to propane. It's just like the flavor better, and it's just a little more involved. It's kind of, just a fun thing to do. So
last time we did a show, I had no power. I did the show from my in-laws' house, and we got power 2 days later. And we went to a local stand and bought like 2 dozen ears of corn. So literally I've been eating like 2 ears of corn every day since I got back. I did my best to get it all out of my teeth. So if there's any in there, I'm sure you'll be the first person to not let me know.
Of course.
But
all right.
I'm excited about this episode, man. We've been planning this one for a long, long time. This has been on the books. So I think this is going to be pretty cool.
I think you could drop the facade, considering I completely admitted in the chat already that we had this planned since about 2:00 this afternoon. Like, what are we going to do? Like, oh, I saw this cool list. Let's do that. So, but of course, due to the content of the list, we have a guest host with us tonight who, as long as we're talking about metal, he is the most metal dude that I know. And as much as I hate to give him a compliment because he does crush me every chance he gets, he is one of my best friends, and he is exceptionally knowledgeable in this area. Kind of a subject matter expert, to use a corporate term. But he is, of course, our very good friend of show, the mighty Chris Akin. What's going on, man?
Could you put me back in the waiting room for a minute? I'm still trying to mark off every Saturday since you didn't give me an exact one to mark. Right. So I'm only about 30 in so far.
Well, all right.
Chris Akin, Smee.
Yes, Smee.
He's a Smee.
I'm shooting for what did I think
your head
21st? Yeah.
That wig to get it off your head?
Oh, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, why
So,
the
yeah.
hair? What's going on with the hair now? Is it still growing out?
Oh yeah.
All right,
Yes.
take the hat off. Come on.
No.
Well, what the hell's the point of having Chris on the show? Oh my
at that.
god! Yeah, never mind. Put the hat back.
Oh,
I've
my
had it in the
goodness.
hat all day. Who the hell cares? Besides, you think I'm really gonna? It's bad enough with you. Do you think I'm
What?
gonna invite Chris on and actually have like not be wearing a hat? Like
What
you're
is
saying.
the ultimate end game with that haircut? Because I'm not seeing anything positive
It
coming out
hasn't
of
been
that.
cut. I actually have an appointment to have it checked out by the girl who cuts my hair. In
Was it
like
a
2
doctor's
weeks,
appointment
basically.
to see what the hell happened?
Well, somehow or another, it's getting cut. It's either like I'm getting the top match to the length of the sides and the back, or I'm actually
Ooh.
just cutting it off again. I don't know. So, but no one gives a shit about that. What they give a shit about is heavy metal. And
I don't know. I like talking
smart-ass,
about your hair personally.
eat my ass. So I'm shooting for Saturday, September 21st. I'm waiting for confirmation on that date. That will be we'll be doing a deep dive into Queensryche's Empire with Mr. Paul Logue, who you guys have seen on the show a few times. And he is, of course, James Labree's co-writer on his excellent solo record, A Beautiful Shade of Grey. So just waiting to confirm the date on that. So look, there, see, Toomey's on my side. Look, see, Josh Toomey, great to see you, man. He says, John is a stud. Leave him alone. Exactly.
The
Just
one
stop
person
it.
you didn't confirm that date with was me, of course, because I'm going to be at the Ohio State Marshall game. But why bother checking with me? I'm just the co-host.
Ohio State Marshall. You can't skip that one.
Yeah.
No, it's free tickets. I'm going with family. So
Why? Gee, I can't imagine why. Ohio State Marshall. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
well, I didn't say they're getting them free.
Wow. Well, look. Okay, Mister, I don't have any ideas for the show, but you have to check with me for my availability. I can do it. It's
oh
fine.
my! You want to know who came up with like the last 7 episodes we did, other than the 2 I missed?
3 you missed, and that's right. I did come up with those ideas, so thank you very much.
Did not.
I appreciate it.
All right, let's get to the topic. Back
Yes.
to John's hair.
So the topic at hand. So yeah,
That
so
Daniel
I
Boone hat that John wears underneath that hat.
Daniel Boone hat. Oh my God. Oh jeez.
You do like that
All right.
pioneer dress-up thing on the weekend, don't you? Like where you like
Oh
guard an
my
old
God,
fort.
I
You like guard an
fucking
old
hate you
fort
guys.
with a musket and stuff.
Musket.
I'm going to get me a moose.
JT Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier. Oh my God, we're off and running. So
Or king of the real cheap beer. One of the two.
pretty much.
Nice.
Oh my God, that's awesome. All right, so yeah, so I actually found a pretty cool list a little while back, it was it's actually top 50 metal records of all time, but I wanted to do the top 25 because when I looked at it, Dream Theater actually came in the top 25. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So I figured what we'll do is we'll go through the top 25 from 25 to 1. And then at the end, we'll go through the other half of the list and see if we agree where they were placed and if we would have replaced anything. Kind of do it that way. Look at Rocket Man. He says, now there has to be an episode where we all roast John. Rocket Man, that's called every episode.
I was
You
going to
can
say,
roast
when
me
isn't that?
Yeah, you can roast me anytime you want, man. I'm not here to like everybody has to like me. Now fuck that. If you want to rip on me, go right the hell ahead. If I was sensitive to it, I wouldn't put myself out in the public eye. So there we go. But all right, so let's get to the list here, and we'll start with number 25, which I know for a fact is one of Chris's favorite records. So I'm wondering if he's going to agree with this. Right off the bat, we have Dream Theater at number 25 with Images and Words. So that was kind of, go ahead, Chris. Tell us how much you love Images and Words.
Is that the Pull Me Under record?
Yes.
It's all right. I don't hate it.
So there you go. Well, this is what they say.
That's
about
the
it.
end of
So
my review. I don't hate it.
that's probably the biggest compliment you've given. All right. So it says Dream Theater overcame a debut album that went largely unnoticed with a second long player in Images and Words that remains a benchmark of their long career and the progressive metal movement in general, thanks to its rare confluence of quality, even accessible songwriting, and unbeatable virtuosity. Heck, even an 8-minute running time could not stop Pull Me Under from becoming a hit. I mean, Brian, obviously Akin is not nearly as big a fan as we are, but Dream Theater in the top 25 of top metal albums. Do you agree with that or disagree? I find that kind of surprising considering some of the stuff that's behind it.
Well, without seeing the rest of the list, that's going to be kind of difficult to say. I think there's a ton of great metal guitar and metal shredding on the album. So does this list, it says specifically heavy metal? That's the title of the list?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and basically,
who made this list, by the way? Is it a publication that will reach to make sure that there's a doom band and a prog band,
Right.
or is it
Yeah.
just somebody that's like sort of legit?
No, it's Loudwire, and
All right.
so Doug McCauley, by the way, good to see you, Doug. He had asked that in the chat before we got started. There's a couple subgenre bands on this list, but it's a little bit more like straight ahead or thrash. You know, pretty much the stuff you would kind of, when you think of just metal. Okay, cool. You're not okay. Well, that's a doom metal band. It's not really that. There's a death metal band. Like, it's not really any of that. Like, it's pretty much, you know, I would say the stuff that's most commercially known is probably a good way to phrase it for the most part.
What is number 50? What's the very last one, so we can get some sort of depth perception to this list?
Dia
Sure.
said.
Yeah, pretty much. Number 50 is Accept Balls to the Wall.
Wow, 50? That seems low.
That should be ahead of Dream Theater.
That's a classic, man.
I was going to say that should be ahead of the Dream Theater record.
I-
Okay,
and-
I get where they're at now. That's fine.
Yeah, and there's some weird stuff on there, and I will say in the top 25, there's going to come a record that I had not heard. I'm aware of the band, and it must just be on this. Yeah, yeah. It's got to just be on this list based on influence, because I listened to the record and it sounds like crap, and the drummer is like Lars Ulrich if he was, you know, fucking like missing half a chromosome. I'm like, how is this on this list, especially this high? So when we get there, I'll mention it to you.
So
but,
it's not Van Halen or Dream Theater, then, is what you're saying.
exactly.
One more question before you go forward.
Okay.
Just for trying to, before I throw comments at this, are there bands in the top 25 where there's multiple entries?
In the top 25 or on
Yes.
the 50 list?
In the top 25.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So then shitting on, I don't know, Metallica and Justice for All at number 22 or whatever might not make sense if Ride the Lightning is number 10 or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all. I'm just trying to figure out what to say here.
You know where I stand. Feel free to shit on Lars all you want. That's fine with me. Rocket Man with a good comment here. He says, "Isn't Lars missing all of his chromosomes when he plays drums?" I believe that is correct, medically correct. I really believe that. So, all right.
About chromosomes, I bet he wishes he had John's hair gene.
Yeah, right. All right, so number 24, we have a record released in 1988. It is Queensryche's Operation Mindcrime, arguably the greatest concept album in heavy metal history. Operation Mindcrime finally catapulted Queensryche to stardom after years of incredible but unfulfilled commercial promise. It also redefined the ages-old marriage of music and lyrics, thanks to a fascinating story of dystopian intrigue backed by undeniably catchy metal anthems. I do apologize. I'm not reading like Neely Akin. These people can't write on some of these. I'm like, what the hell are you saying? So, all right. So Operation Mindcrime at number 24. What do we think?
That seems low to me.
Agree.
I kind of thought so
Pretty
too.
low.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised.
Like,
Again, there's
literally one spot ahead of Images and Words. I mean, that's I don't know about that, man. I love Images and Words, but let's be real here.
yeah. I mean, Aiken, we know that you would obviously put Queensryche ahead of Dream Theater. I mean, Brian, would you flip flop those, or just in general, would you have Images higher than Operation Mindcrime?
No, I'd have Mindcrime way higher, more towards one.
I think I would too. And I mean, what about the statement? You know, the greatest concept album in metal history. I tend to agree with that. What do you guys think?
Incorrect.
Okay. Oh, now which one are you?
Lost the Crimson Idol.
Crimson
Of course.
Idol. I'm like, that's coming.
Yeah, I forgot that you're.
If only there was an episode where we did those two.
Yeah, I
albums
wonder if we
together.
ever talked about those before.
like at the
I
same
wonder.
time.
Yep. Man, oh man. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was kind of low too. again, like especially with some of the stuff coming up, it's like, I don't know about that. Like I think it's too influential to be that low. I think so many bands like kind of, put this as kind of like a landmark record that came after them that you have to put it higher, I think.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely the peak of Queensryche's time. I mean, even Empire wasn't as good as Mindcrime. I mean, come on. Mindcrime is Mindcrime.
Yeah.
So and it's an album that catapulted that band into, top 10 territory for about 5 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think that's kind of low. 24? Come on.
Yeah.
That's a 20-something that wrote this list.
Doug McCauley asks, I wonder what the criteria is for this list. Was it just the guy reading the titles on his tape collection? Feels kind of fucked up already. Yeah, it's like I said, there's some questionable choices on here, Doug. I mean, as we get further in, Rob Carcahangas, good to see you. Mindcrime is like Lars's talent. It should be higher. Nice. And of course, we have Jim Bartek, Jackal 1, Nostradamus. Maybe just sit this one out, Jim. Seriously. Seriously.
That's not even in the top 25 Judas Priest records.
Yeah, exactly.
That is a fucking bag of shit.
Now, if you're talking
God.
Demolition or Demolition Man or whatever, what was the
Demolition?
Demolition. That's better than Nostradamus.
Yeah.
Turbo's better than Nostradamus.
I love Turbo, man. It's a
So
fun
does
album.
Akin.
I don't hate it. I wrote a book about it, but
I know.
But I don't hate it. But I mean, Nostradamus is
Yeah.
down there with Gene Simmons' asshole record in the all-time loser category. It's garbage.
So we could say Ram It Down is above Nostradamus.
Yes.
Okay.
Even
right.
the cover
Not
of
by
Gotta
a
Be
lot,
Good.
but yes. Ram It Down is pretty awful.
Well, here's an album that is ranked higher than Nostradamus and Ram It Down. At number 23, we have, I would say this is a comeback record of sorts. Released in 1980, we have Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell. Black Sabbath proved countless pundits and even many fans wrong when they resurfaced after a string of unimpressive late 70s albums with one of their career highlights, and that's of course saying a lot, in 1980's Heaven and Hell. Catalyzed by the talents of new singer Ronnie James Dio, tunes like Children of the Sea, Die Young, and the majestic title song stayed true to Sabbath's legacy while modernizing the sound for a new decade. I think this is ranked a little low myself as well. This is just kind of, what do you guys think?
I've said before, there's arguments to say that could be the greatest metal album of all time, and it's hard to come up with. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, there's no fucking way that's like, that is criminal that's not top 5 minimum.
Well, and to see it next to Queensryche and Dream Theater, come on.
Yeah, no, that's
stop it. Just stop it.
Yeah.
If it was up head to head with Master of Puppets and Rust in Peace, okay, I could see that argument. But at number 23, no way.
Oh, this is really getting bad quick.
Yeah.
No
well,
way.
I mean, the only reason I could see it down this low, maybe the person is like, because some of the songs they don't have that classic Sabbath riffing. It is kind of like it's kind of like a different direction on a couple songs for Tony Iommi's writing, I think. So maybe because it's not that classic, like Paranoid, Master of Reality type stuff where like every riff is just that massive doom, type of fucking, downbeat thing.
You're making unnecessary excuses. It's a terrible pick.
It's
a terrible pick.
I'm just saying.
That riff on Heaven and Hell, it sucks, man.
Well, no,
That's
I'm saying it's not on every.
That singer, he's awful.
I'm just saying on every song, it's not. There is some different stuff on here. So that's the only reason I can see why this guy would have it down that low. I'm not saying I agree with him.
I can't wait to see what's in the top 5 now.
The more I'm hearing this list, the more I'm thinking this is about a 25-year-old that wrote this list that doesn't remember any of this shit.
Yeah, there's some gems coming up here. There's a record I absolutely hate, and one of the picks on here, I just want to like punch the guy. But we'll move on to number 22. This is a record that was released in 1990. We have Slayer's Seasons in the Abyss. Every one of Slayer's first 5 albums was absolutely startling and revolutionary in its own way, but the fact that Satan's favorite band could still shock and awe on such an impressive scale nearly a decade into their career helps elevate Seasons in the Abyss to the very doorstep of 1986's incomparable Rain and Blood and marks War Ensemble among the group's greatest songs ever. So let's start there. Do you guys think this is like almost on par with Rain and Blood, or would you take something like South of Heaven or Hell Awaits or Diabolus in Musica?
No.
That was a joke at the end there.
I was gonna say, Jesus Christ. Is it as good as Christ Illusion?
Yeah. God hates us all.
No. It's Slayer's best work. I know people will argue that. There's the Haunting the Chapel people, and there's the Hell Awaits people and Rain and Blood people. Yep. It's their greatest work because it's the only record they ever did that could play to a multitude of audience. It could play to the heavy audience. It could also play to the MTV audience as it did. It was the first time you ever saw Slayer on MTV was for those tunes for Seasons. And it's a great record. If it's the only one on the list, then I guess it belongs on the list. It certainly should be a lot higher, especially whatever the number 2 or 3 of the thrash bands is on this list, it should be there. So I don't know the rest of the list, but I would say wherever the number 2 to 3 thrash records are, that's about where this should be slotted.
Okay. Doug McCauley says, this list was written by one of the Hanson kids. I'm sure of it.
Nothing wrong with some Hanson now.
Right. Doug McCauley, he also says, yes, way higher. And Cale McLeish is not really a big fan. He says there's some decent songs on there, yet it doesn't stand out that much for me. Mind you, I was never a huge Slayer fan. That was going to be my yeah. Right. That was going to be my question for you, Brian. How much do you get into Slayer? Would you agree that this is their best work?
For Slayer, all I need is Rain and Blood and South of Heaven, and I'm good. There were some songs on this I like, but after South of Heaven, I was like, you know what? I got 2 Slayer classics I love. I don't really need a whole lot more, but I wouldn't mind going kind of just hardcore diving into Seasons because I've heard so much about it, and you guys are recommending it. So,
I think I would side with Akin on this one. I would add a caveat though. I think it's their best work, but I completely agree that Rain and Blood is their most influential and probably most important
I agree with
release.
that too. Yeah.
But yeah, Seasons in the Abyss, you've got all the. I think it combines. It's like the perfect example of both sides of Slayer. The more accessible, straight up groove stuff, along with that just ungodly, speed metal thrash stuff that they were known for. That was basically the entire Rain and Blood record. I just think if you could call a Slayer record catchy, I think this would be the only one you could really say that about.
It's also the only one up to that point that had good production. And that's another big deal to me was, all those other ones sound like they're recorded in a garage.
Yeah.
But the Season sounds like a big dollar record.
Could you imagine Seasons in the Abyss or Rain and Blood if it had the Testament production that they've got going on right now?
Those would be good.
The last few Testament records just sound have Andy Sneap do a fucking Slayer record. Could you imagine? Holy Jesus.
I wouldn't hate it.
Whew. Rob Karkuhanga says Seasons is their most complete album. Yep, totally agree. All right, so at number 21, I thought this was an interesting choice. So this is a record that was released in 1989, and I'm sure Max and Igor Cavalera will re-record it soon. This is Beneath the Remains. No band did more to promote heavy metal's global expansion beyond the long-established US, UK, European axis than Brazil's Sepultura. And 1989's Beneath the Remains was the album that put Latin American metal on the map. A brilliant amalgam of thrash and death metal. The group's third long player, I hate when he uses that term repeatedly. The group's third long player literally took the metal world by storm and has stood the test of time among many other fine releases as their signature release. I'm going to say it right now. I disagree with that last take. I do not think it's their signature release. I would say
not.
It's Chaos AD. As much as I hate to admit this, I would say some people might say Roots. Personally, for me, I think I would say Arise.
I would say Arise.
Yeah, I mean, Brian, how familiar are you with Sepultura?
What the comment? It put Latin American metal on the map. I mean, was there just plethora of just massive bands coming out of Brazil after that metal? Like,
maybe so.
I don't know. Sepultura to me, I think they're okay. I never really understood like when they're praising them in this way and saying how groundbreaking it is. I mean, to me, they're little bit rhythmically better version of Slayer. Max is obviously influenced by probably early James and Tom Araya and stuff, and I don't know. I'm not going to say they're an Anvil to me because I do appreciate what they do, but I think they get a little bit. People get over their skis.
Wait a minute, you're sort of comparing them to Anvil.
Well, I'm saying people get over their skis talking about them, how influential they are, and I don't know that I buy that.
Yeah, I think what set Sepultura apart was the speed. I mean, that's the one thing that always got me about those early records, man, up until Chaos AD, is that, I mean, those goddamn records, they were playing like, and they sped everything up live, so it was like, what the hell? How much cocaine were they doing? I mean, it was really fucking, that was super speed metal, man, I think. Yeah, I mean, I like Sepultura. I'll bring up a comment in the chat here in a minute after Akin, you give your opinion. But yeah, I don't think this is like their greatest release. Like I said, I would definitely take Arise over this one.
Is Arise not on the list at all?
We will discuss that going forward.
All right.
Wait like 2.5 hours when we get there.
The only way this is a decent pick at all is if there's 3 other Sepultura records further up the line.
Yeah.
That's the only way this is decent. That being said, is it a great record? Yes, it is. It's the first time, just like I just said with Slayer, it's the first time they had good production, because all their other stuff was straight ass.
Yeah.
Production-wise is just terrible. And I'm glad Max is redoing them, because all 3 of the redos are better than the originals.
Yeah.
Inner Self is one of their greatest tunes, and that was on
Completely
Beneath
agree.
the Remains. Mass Hypnosis, another great tune.
Yep.
And I don't remember exactly. I was a little young when this came out, or I just wasn't seeing a lot of shows. I got to see Sepultura for the first time on the Arise tour, and they fucking blew me away. So, and every time I've ever seen them since, even with Derek, they're amazing live. They've always been amazing live. And I think that's a part of why, to answer Brian's question, why people are so crazy about them, is to go and see them. If you got to see them, even if it was in an opening slot or something, it was a different experience coming out, no matter what you felt about the band going in.
Yeah.
I mean, they really brought it live. And I think, yeah, I mean, I agree with Brian's statement about, the big Latin American, thing. I mean, I know there was a few of us that knew about Angra, but let's be real here. I mean, Sepultura definitely for heavy music is still the only good band that's come out of Brazil. I can't think of another one really.
It's hard to argue that, man.
I will say, full disclosure, I do enjoy these remixes that are coming out, these remasters they're complete redos, aren't they?
They're re-records because it's not the whole guy; it's just
right.
the 2 Cavalera brothers.
Yeah, what I've heard of that, I do like.
Well, I think what's the best about those, Akin, to your point, is the production is awesome. But what I like is if you do them back to back, like they actually played them to speed. It wasn't one of these things where I've heard a lot of bands when they do the re-record thing, they'll slow things down. You can tell they're aged. This is not that. This is all the ferocity, all the speed, all the aggression with great fat production, which I think is awesome.
I hope they keep doing them.
Yeah, I do too.
I'm fine with the Cavaliers stealing the collection. It's fine with me. Should be theirs anyway.
I was wondering when this guy would chime in. Murilo Alves, good to see you. He says, Sepultura from Brazil. Yep. And now a quick question before we get down to the next one, because I wanted to bring this up.
Yeah.
So where is that comment? Okay. Doug McCauley says, I love metal, but I don't get Sepultura until they did Roots, and I kind of got it. Brian, are you familiar with Roots?
I think that was one of the greatest TV series they made out of a book ever in the 70s.
Nice.
No, I actually had the CD. I don't mind Roots. I think I love the grooves and stuff they have going on that.
I do not like that record at all. I think it is highly overrated. What do you think, Chris?
It's heavy corn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It doesn't sound like Sepultura. I don't hate it. I listen to it every now and again, but for me, it's always Beneath the Remains and Arise and Chaos. Those are, and then some of the stuff with Derek, like Alex and anything from the last 15 years of Sepultura is as good as the original stuff. But nobody wants to hear that. So
yeah. Chuck74 says there's some debate of early beginnings of death metal with early Sepultura. I know it really comes down to Death and Possessed. I could hear that. I mean, I would buy into that. I don't hear a lot of difference between early Sepultura and like Death and Possessed and stuff. I haven't heard a lot of it, obviously, but I'm not. It's not like Sepultura is that, and then all of a sudden Cannibal Corpse was the next thing. So I don't hear a ton of difference. So
yeah, the difference in those comparisons would be the guitars. I mean, Chuck was just otherworldly guitar player.
Yes.
Where nobody in Sepultura was otherworldly. What's his name? Andreas is pretty good, but he's not that level. But were they one of those bands? Sure, they were. And what's funny is if you talk to Max now, Max is still all about death metal. When you talk to him, every time I talk to him, he turns me on to like 2 or 3 other bands. He always is like, brother, you got to check out 200 Nails in the Face or whatever band he's listening to at the time.
Right.
And I go and listen to it. I'm like, fuck yeah, that's really good.
Right.
He's still plugged into death metal. He loves it. He hasn't gotten old and turned into, I don't know, Carrie Underwood guy or whatever.
Nice.
Right. Yeah. He definitely hasn't softened. That's for sure.
No, not at all.
So speaking of a guy who does go soft, he's got the worst baseball takes on the planet. He is not a Clevelander. He is actually from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This next one goes out to Jim Bartek in the chat, Jackal 1. At number 20, we have a record released in 1976. We have Rising by Rainbow. Rainbow's Rising was one of the landmark heavy metal albums of the 70s, hailed as a huge influence by everyone from Iron Maiden's Bruce Dickinson to Metallica's Kirk Hammett. It was voted numero uno by the readers of Kerrang! Magazine in 1980 and contains some of Ritchie Blackmore and Ronnie James Dio's very best castle metal classics in Tarot Woman, A Light in the Black, and Stargazer. I listened to this for the first time today.
First time?
I never. It's something I never tried to listen to. It's not a dislike thing. It's just something I never thought to listen to. I was really surprised that it's called an album, but it's only like 6 tunes. I was like, isn't that an EP?
Yeah, but aren't most of them like 6 minutes long?
You
two should appreciate that.
Well, yeah, but I thought 6 songs is an EP, but yeah, I mean, it was cool, man. I liked it a lot. I thought it was cool. I mean, Ronnie James Dio just can make anything good. That guy could sing the phone book. He's one of those dudes, and it's like it's gonna kick ass. I would say that I think this one is another one that I think could be a little bit higher because again, I think this is a band and a release that so many artists that came after have hailed as, oh, Blackmore. Like the guitar players always talk about Ritchie Blackmore and singers always talk about Ronnie James Dio. And it goes back to the Rainbow stuff, I think. And so I think this could have been higher based on influence. Where do you guys stand?
Go ahead, Brian.
Well, first of all, the fact that you've got Heaven and Hell behind this is completely insane. I don't mind giving credit to Rainbow. I like Man on the Silver Mountain. I love that's not on this album. There's cool stuff on this album. I like Blackmore. I like the riffs, the stuff that he and Ronnie did. I think is pretty cool. I could see this being up there, but I have a serious problem with putting Heaven and Hell behind this. I'm not following that logic at all.
I can see it because you got to remember the time frame. 5 years later when Heaven and Hell came out, I think it's 5 years later, 4 or 5 years later, when Heaven and Hell came out, there was a glut of metal bands and there was a different sound. I mean, when you think 1975, what was metal? Deep Purple.
Yeah.
What else?
Probably the Rush. That was
Rush.
Close, yeah.
There just wasn't a lot. And Black Sabbath. Blue Cheer.
Yeah.
Well, you
Well,
had, you had some priests in there too.
some
so-
of the very early Priests, but that
Yeah.
was more rock. Honestly, if
Yeah.
you listen to those first couple of Priest records, they are definitely more rock.
Yeah.
This was really heavy. This was like heavy on the scope of a Black Sabbath without sounding like Black Sabbath. And let's face it, you had three of the best musicians in the history of the world. As much as I like to goof on Blackmore, you had Blackmore, Dio, and Cozy Powell all on the same record. Which,
Yeah.
if that's not a super group, I don't know what is. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's an amazing record, and it's a great record. I always laugh a little bit when I hear that people say it's the greatest of all time. I don't even think it's the greatest Rainbow record of all time, but
Yeah.
you know, I'd give that to Man on Silver Mountain, you know.
Right.
But it's a great record. It's certainly better than some of the ones that we've already read, so I guess it fits somewhere. It should be a little higher, I guess.
So Adopa says, I wouldn't be surprised to see Motley's Generation Swine on this list.
Probably number 2.
Right? No joke, man. All right, so moving on to number 19. This is one I think is ranked too high. So I'll just say that right off the bat. This is an album that was released in 2004. This is Leviathan by Mastodon. Atlanta, Georgia's Mastodon had already begun separating themselves from the American metal pack before they unleashed 2004's spectacular Leviathan, but the quartet's magnificently creative concept piece, inspired by Herman Melville's Moby Dick, catapulted them beyond even the wildest expectations, and marking them as perhaps the most important American heavy metal band since Pantera or Metallica.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a statement.
Yeah.
Guess Lamb of God doesn't count.
Yeah. I mean, okay. If you, yeah, I don't understand why this is so high up. I listened to it. There's, I mean, it's good.
This guy's trying to weave in stuff that doesn't belong, so he gets a little of everything.
I don't know, because I looked up some other lists and there were some wild ass lists, man. I'm like, you can't put that in there. But
So they're playing this
Holy
on their
shit.
current tour. They're playing this album in its entirety, I believe. When they were just here, they did.
well, it is the 20th anniversary.
I love me some Mastodon. It's funny. The first time I heard this album, Bob turned me on to it, and I was like, I didn't like it at all. So I'm like, I went back and listened again. And I love the album, but I don't think it's anywhere near their best album, not even close. So I don't know if they have Blood Mountain or Crack the Sky in there or The Hunter
Yeah.
up
I mean,
ahead of it. It is a heavy as shit album, though. I mean, it's heavy, it's doomy, it's thundery, bass thundery drums. I mean, it's dark, everything's detuned. You know, is it 20th best metal album of all time or wherever we are? No.
Yeah, I was gonna say no. It ain't. It's not that high. It's a good record,
Yeah.
and it's a moody record, and that's kind of my problem with it. It's a little too moody. I'd
Yeah.
put anything that you're gonna read on Opeth, if they're in there somewhere, I'd put them in the same boat. You know, I love me some Opeth, but at the same time, top 10, top 15, top 20, no, absolutely not.
well, I mean, I could see the moodiness on this one because it is based on, you know, Moby Dick. So I mean, if you're gonna do that, that's kind of a dark novel. So I guess that fits the mood of what it was written
If
conceptually.
anybody
about.
knows Dick,
There it is.
It's
Oh,
actually
my
about
God.
it's about a whale, John. It's not the thing you're thinking of. Sorry.
Fucking jerk off. So Bob Hurd says Leviathan is probably the third best Mastodon album, in my opinion. Weird pick.
I agree with
Yeah,
that.
that's-
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and Kale says the same thing you guys just did. He says, not a Leviathan stan. I'd rather have Crack the Sky, The Hunter, or Blood Mountain.
Yeah, Blood Mountain
Yeah.
for me. That's the one.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to number 18. This is a record that was released in 1976. It is Sad Wings of Destiny by Judas Priest. After achieving mixed results on their scattered first LP, Rockarola, Judas Priest truly came into their own as heavy metal's second great band following fellow Brummies Black Sabbath on 1976's Sad Wings of Destiny. A monument to heavy metal's dark majesty, Sad Wings focused Priest's vision on stunning cuts ranging from the elaborate Victim of Changes to the short and deadly The Ripper. I will start here and kind of like tease the rest of the list. This should not be up here because of the stuff that is not ahead of it. You got to have other Priest records if you're going to put a Priest record in the top. You know, what are we at, 18? Sad Wings is not it. I completely disagree.
Well, I
with this
can think
selection
of
here.
3 anyway that I would put above it. You know, if Screamin' and Defenders and British Steel are not above it, then this is bunk. You know,
Where would you? I'm sorry to cut you off, but where would you put Painkiller in with those 3 records?
I would put that right up there too. Painkiller's my personal favorite. I think.
Me too.
You know, I go back and forth with Priest. Priest is probably my second or third favorite band ever. This album, I'm gonna be honest, I rarely go to this record. You know, it sounds kind of dodgy. You know, I don't love the production on this one at all. Victim of Changes is overplayed. I've never understood why Judas Priest thought this was one of their greatest songs. Fuck, it's like such a mishmash. I think even Al Atkins wrote it, if I'm not mistaken on that. So it was like before they had like a solidified thing going. I don't know. It's okay. You know, Dreamer Deceiver's an okay tune. Tyrant's an okay tune. I don't hear anything on here that makes me go, God damn it, I got to pull that out again.
Right.
Well, it's probably kind of their first true metal album, you know. I mean,
But that doesn't make it in the top 20 all time.
No, I'm not saying it should be top 20. I think this would be a good top 50, though. I could see this selling. Like, I mean, I love The Ripper. I disagree. I like Victim of Changes. Deceiver's good. I love Tyrant. Island of Domination. I like that song. I mean, this isn't the worst thing we've seen in the list. Let's just put it that way.
No, definitely not. I think this should be higher than it is next to Mastodon. That's for sure.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. Kim McLeish says, I agree with Akin, and I'd actually add the 2 latest Priest records before this one. That is interesting because those 2 new Priest records are pretty slamming, dude.
It's hard. It's the only. I agree with Cale and disagree at the same time. It's awful hard to say anything without Tipton and Downing is better than all the great stuff with Tipton and Downing.
Yeah,
it really is hard to. Yeah, the 2 of the top 5 greatest records of all time are those Andy Sneap, Richie Faulkner records.
Yeah,
that's a tough kill.
I think I might side with you on that. Just like I say, influence goes a long way. You know, that's why there's a couple things coming up that I'm just like, what is this guy fucking thinking? But so it does get way worse, believe me. Chuck74, thanks for tuning in, man. He says, timeline is everything. Sad Wings stripped the blues out of what Sabbath was doing, and it was more metallic sounding. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Not unfair.
I'll give you that. Adopa is saying that Stained Class is the best 70s Priest album.
70s Priest album. Yeah, might be.
Could be.
British Steel's what, 80?
There's a niche for you. Let's do an episode, the best 70s Priest albums.
Right. All righty.
Well, before you move on, if I might just take 1 second to do a shameless plug.
Yes.
If people will follow along on the CMS network. I just interviewed Ian Hill of Judas Priest on Monday. So that will be coming out soon. And there is a One Question with Ian Hill that is up, I believe, right now. So go check it out.
Awesome. Perfect timing on that. All right. So getting to number 17, we have a record that was released in 1983. And this is another one I think could be ranked higher potentially. We have Holy Diver by Dio. Ronnie James Dio took all of the experiences acquired during years acting as frontman for Rainbow and Black Sabbath into his self-named group's stellar first effort, Holy Diver. With the aid of fellow Sabbath survivor drummer Vinny Appice, veteran bassist Jimmy Bain, and hotshot guitar whiz Vivian Campbell, Dio delivered the 80s grandest castle metal statement with the title track, Don't Talk to Strangers and Rainbow in the Dark. Thoughts on Holy Diver?
First of all, the next album is better than that. So for him to say this is the greatest of castle metal is incorrect. Because Last in Line was better. Having this above Rainbow Rising feels a little weird too.
Okay.
But it's a great record. Nonetheless, it's still a great. Yeah. I don't want to. I'm saying all these negative things. And I'm like, it's a record that I play at least once a month. So I love it. But
if you forget everything else on the list, and this, where are we at here? 17 or 18?
17.
That's fine. I think that's a perfect spot for it.
It's not a bad spot, but
I think it's a good spot.
I just think the other stuff certainly. Well, Brian, you know the record better than John. It Rainbow Rising or Holy Diver?
Oh man.
That's a tough one, right?
Yeah, but what's not a tough one for me is Heaven and Hell for both of those songs.
Well, I agree with that too. I would put Heaven.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Heaven and Hell is my gateway to metal. Heaven and Hell was the album. My cousin gave it to me at his house. My cousin was a big Kiss fan, and I fucking hated Kiss.
But you like Last in Line better than Holy Diver, huh? That's interesting.
Oh yeah, a lot better. Just a lot more evil. I like it.
Yeah, Mystery. That's a really evil song.
Wow.
That
But I was a kid. I was, look, at that time when you got to remember you got to always remember what was going on at the time.
Yeah.
You know, you were getting bombarded with Autograph and Y&T and all that stuff. Then all of a sudden here comes Dio with you know, the demonic guy on the cover and all that stuff. And it was like, whoa. This is where I want to be. I don't want to be listening to Condition Critical by Quiet Riot. I want this.
Nobody else does either.
Well, I know.
Right. Yeah, I don't know about the placement on this. I just because I'm not as familiar with it as you guys are. I try and think about all the different stuff I've read. Like, 'cause I do read a lot of music books and watch documentaries. So as much as I may not listen to a lot of the bands, like I'm familiar with a lot of the history of this stuff. And it's difficult for me to say whether or not I hear Rainbow mentioned more as an influence on a lot of bands or Dio. It's kind of like it's fairly even from the stuff I've read. So I mean, do you put Rainbow ahead of this one just because it came before and it influenced what Dio would do on his solo work? I mean, I don't know where I stand on that. So
I don't think it influenced. I don't think Dio as a solo entity sounds anything like Rainbow or Black Sabbath.
I mean,
I
it's
think
metal,
he reinvented himself. But he reinvented himself both times.
Okay. I mean, I can go along with that. Kale McLeish has a question, which I have an answer for. He says, God, how did Vivian Campbell go from this to Def Leppard? Millions
there's a thing called a bank account.
Yeah, millions upon millions of dollars, Kale. It goes a long, long way to what you will do.
Def Leppard said, we need somebody that's more of an asshole in our band, and Vivian might be available.
Exactly. You don't drink, and you're not that nice like Steve Clark was. So, yeah, come and join us.
Come on in.
Exactly.
Well, Bob and I have had the same comment that Rob just put up there. Cam, he's criminally underutilized in Def Leppard. That's just how it's always going to be. I mean,
well, yeah.
Well, Def Leppard as a metal band is a joke these days. I mean, come on. When's the last metal record they did?
Right.
Half of Euphoria, maybe, because that at least had some classic sounding songs, and that was it. So
yeah, that Promises tune. That really,
I know.
That screams
Well,
metal.
Well, they had like Paper Sun on there. There was that record is so weird to me because like I remember I got it. I was like, wait a minute, what? Half of this stuff is trash, and the other half sounds like it was something that could have been put out with hysteria and.
It's because half of it was done with Mutt Lange, and the other half wasn't.
Yeah, true. Well, here's a record that was definitely not done with Mutt Lange. This record was released in 1970. It is the self-titled debut from Black Sabbath. Everything Metal begins with Black Sabbath's eponymous debut, which condensed all of the proto-metallic contributions that were roiling through the late 60s, Blue Cheer, Cream, Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, into the style's de facto primordial soup. Recorded in a single day with next to no overdubs, Black Sabbath is the real deal, a nasty, gnarly, doom-laden beast bursting with spontaneous misanthropy, whatever the fuck, fuck that outsiders everywhere related to immediately. I like a lot of Sabbath. Some of it I don't get why people are so into. So, I like some later Sabbath albums a lot more than I like this one, and I will go on record as saying that the title track Black Sabbath is one of the most overrated songs I've ever heard. That song is boring as shit. I get it. It was influential. Oh, this is so dark and doomy, and this, the devil's tritone and all that shit. Like, it is boring as fuck. Holy God, is that boring?
I think you have to remember the time. There was nothing.
Yeah.
At that time, I mean, Led Zeppelin was your only and they were a new band at the time. You know, I mean, what else did you have?
Nothing.
I don't think there was anything to compare it to, which I guess they get props for. I'm looking at the track list right now before I make a real comment. There's a lot of good songs on this record.
I love the Wizard.
Pretty much all of them.
The Wizard's one of my favorites.
Wizard's a
Sabbath
great one.
tunes of all
NIB's
time.
a great one.
Yep.
Behind the Wall of Sleep's a great. Evil Woman. Yeah, that's a pretty goddamn good record. And they recorded it in what, a day?
Yeah, that's what this says. I don't know if it was actually one. I think it might have been. I listened to Geezer Butler's autobiography like about 2 months ago, and I think that's accurate.
That's a pretty good day's work.
Yeah, right. That's especially with like no overdubs and everything. I mean, it's almost none. I'm catching hell for this in the chat, by the way. Jackal 1 says, "No way, John." Johan Alexanderson says, "I'm vetoing this statement." And Doug sides with you guys.
What are the later records that you like better than this? I mean, are you going to say Eternal Idol or what? I mean,
no.
What are you gonna say here?
Don't knock Eternal Idol.
I'm not. Look, I'll never knock any of the Tony Martins.
Okay.
Yeah,
I love the Tony Martin stuff.
Honestly, my favorite Sabbath record is Master of Reality. So I really like that one. I thought Bloody Sabbath had some really cool shit on there. So if I was picking, I mean, I would have those, as more influential, at least for me. I wouldn't say influential. I prefer them more. I mean, obviously nothing's more influential than this record, which for me, honestly, my personal opinion notwithstanding, I'm surprised this is at number 16 because pretty much everything else that comes after it is based off of this record and what they would do. So, oh my God. All right, Kale, seriously, if Akin could ban you from the chat for this, he would. Kale says 13 is a better album than the debut, in my opinion. Holy shit, man.
When did they start giving out free opium in Australia? Jesus Christ.
Wow, Kale, that is.
Come on, Kale.
Good Lord. Johan Alexanderson, he says, hot take alert.
Holy smokes, that's quite a statement there.
Look at this. Mike's Musical Rehab, thanks for tuning in, man. He says, does Lulu from Metallica make it?
On Kale's list?
Yeah. Actually, there is a record coming up that I would rather listen to Lulu than listen to a record.
No, there's not.
Oh, yes, there is.
No, there's not.
Yeah,
let me just tell you how much I hate this record that will be coming up soon. So
we must have some Cannibal Corpse coming then.
No. All right, so number 15, we have an album released in 2001. We have Blackwater Park by Opeth. After gaining steadily in both confidence and ambition over 4 increasingly impressive albums during the second half of the 90s, Swedish death metal proggies Opeth reached peak form on 2001's breathtaking Blackwater Park, whose title reflected the group's 70s art rock influences, supported by consistently intricate, wildly imaginative 9 to 10 minute epics, each one more awe-inspiring than the last. I, as I said on a previous episode, do not know anything about this record in this band. So I'll leave it to you guys. I think, Akin, you're not really an Opeth fan either, are you?
Not the later stuff. I hated the change. Like most people, I don't like the more mellow. I like the early stuff when they were sort of a quasi proggy death thing. This is the album that I love. I like Ghost Reveries a little bit too. But after that, it was just garbage for 15 years or whatever we're at this point. I don't hate Blackwater Park though; it's pretty goddamn good.
What about you, Brian? I know we talked about it with Hurd.
Yeah, just to read Hurd's comment, I guess I don't know that much about these guys either. The old stuff.
Yeah. So Bob Hurd. Again, we talked about this record with him a few episodes ago. Says Blackwater Park is a masterpiece. This album transformed Opeth into my favorite band. Yes, probably biased, but this album is everything I could ever want in a medical or a metal record. Medical record.
Or a medical record.
Yeah. A medical record. All right. Speaking of condition critical.
Give me the black blood.
Yes. All right. So let's get to number 14. And this is the record that I said sounds like shit. And the drummer is absolutely god awful. This sounds
Gatlin.
Yeah.
How'd they make?
Damn it, you beat me to it.
He didn't say the singer. He said the drummer.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
My bad.
Sorry, Mikey.
So this sounds like a bad garage band demo in terms of the drumming quality and the production. This is a record released in 1981. It is Welcome to Hell by Venom. Venom's sophomore album, 1982's Black Metal, helped name an entire heavy metal subgenre nearly a decade after its release, but it was their first, Welcome to Hell, that set the ball in motion with its intentionally rude and crude assault on the senses, an equal number of seminal songs as its more famous successor, and the difference maker in one of extreme metal's ultimate anthems, Witching Hour. This album sounds like dick. It sounds awful. I listened to it because I'd never heard it. I know who Venom is. Actually, the guy who's works on my guitars is on tour with. I think it's the original guy. It might be Venom Inc., but he's been all over Europe for the last year with them. So, I don't get it. Maybe this influenced a shitload of people, but again, this record sounds absolutely terrible. And the drumming, when this first came on, I was like, wait, did I actually click on demos or something? Like, this is, I mean, it's really, really bad. I mean, are you familiar with this at all, Chris?
Oh yeah, they stink. They've always sucked. I've never got it. I've listened to them a zillion times. I don't get Venom at all. Not certainly Welcome to Hell. Any of them, even the newest stuff that's kind of recorded a little better, still stinks. They don't have anybody to write any good songs. Kronos blows. Period. I never understood it. And then, because they named a record Black Metal, they're trying to attribute Black Metal to that. It doesn't. Black Metal sounds nothing like Venom. Nothing. Venom just sounds like, I don't know, vomit. They stink.
Yeah, I don't get it, dude. Have you ever listened to this at all, Brian?
So I kind of got, no pun intended, sucked into this back when I was first getting into metal, like in 9th, 10th, 11th grade, and it was one of those, it's over here where Motorhead, and this stuff is album-wise, so it's like, you got to get this and check it out. And I agree with Chris. I don't know what the traction is of it. I think it's garbage. The production's horrible. There's the musicianship. There's nothing. It's like a cool name and like cool album covers and evil song titles, but the music is absolutely atrocious.
Yeah,
that's what I thought. There's nothing heavy about the music. It's just bad.
Yeah, and the production value is absolute shit.
Yeah, it's
and
terrible.
Again, how did that level of drumming get on an actually internationally released record? I mean, it is terribly sloppy. I was like, what am I listening to? No.
And to be on this list at all is embarrassing. Again, that's a vanity pick. That's there's a lot of people that credit Venom, so we better put it on the list.
Yeah, you could have left it off. Jackal One says, good album, but should be lower. I would disagree with that.
Well, Jim's the same guy that fucking thinks Nostradamus was the greatest record of all time.
Very true, very true. Mike's Musical Rehab says, wow, that is a rough-sounding album. Rob Carcohangas says, Venom's reputation is bigger than their talent, but I occasionally like the rawness of it. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, they've made, like a 45-year career out of,
sounding like shit.
Yeah, and everyone going, oh, it's Venom, but doesn't know anything or sits around and plays Venom at all. You know what I mean? It's like
Chastity Crawley, credit Venom as what not to do.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right, so let's get to something that should be nowhere near this list. It should be nowhere near anybody's player at any time. It is a monstrous, gigantic fucking hunk of shit. I would rather listen to Lulu than this. I fucking hate this band. I fucking hate this record. I will not listen to anybody telling me that I'm wrong on this. This is a record released in 2001. It is Toxicity by System of a Down. System of a Down's commercial breakthrough Toxicity followed years of hard work by the Armenian-American quartet, yet felt like an overnight smash hit when millions of fans flocked to record stores to grab a copy. With songs like Chop Suey, Aerials, ATWA, and the title track, the wondrously idiosyncratic and eclectic album is one of metal's most original statements ever. I'll let you guys talk about it because this is fucking trash on a level that is hard to achieve. It fucking sucks ass, and I hate it.
Go ahead, Brian.
I like the song Aerials. That's all I'll say. The rest of it, Chop Suey, I think is absolutely horrible. I don't know what you've got to be on to put this in the top 50. No, we're at
vanity
15.
pick again. It's a vanity pick.
To say that this is amazing and all this. No, there's nothing unique or amazing about it. It's just, I don't know. I don't even know what they're going for here. I think whatever you think of Slipknot, I think their brand of what they do is 100 times better than whatever System of a Down was trying to do here.
System of a Down was the metal version of Eminem. If you look at gangster rap at the time, it was kind of smoothed out and slow with Snoop Dogg and Tupac. Tupac wasn't ultimately very fast or whatever. But then Eminem came along and he was like, real fast. And that's what System of a Down was with that fucking. I never got it. That being said, John, you're insane to think that you would listen to I Am the Table over Chop Suey.
I would. I hate it that much, dude.
Stop.
That's literally how much I fucking hate it.
Ooh.
I absolutely I just can't stand this goddamn band. I
don't like them either. I'm not a fan either, but
yeah, I can't say anything because I just hate it so goddamn much.
Something connected though. They're still drawing 50,000 people whenever they play.
You know, I mean, this record was huge. I'm not going to deny it. I mean, this one's easy. Rob Carcahonga says, "Good call, Brian. Slipknot is better than System of a Down. Yeah, light years.
Jeez.
Light years better."
Thank you, Rob. I'll pat myself on the back for that one.
Mike's Musical Rehab. He says, "Oh, I love that album, but it's my birthday today, so you can't be pissed." Well, happy birthday. And as a present, I'm going to get you some better musical taste, Mike.
Yeah, maybe you should go back to Musical Rehab, Mike.
Right. Wow, me and Jim actually agree on something. He says, I would listen to Lulu over this as well.
Jim would listen to Lulu anyway because it's on the same par as Nostradamus. Just shit.
Yeah. Murilo Alves, good point. He says, Carcass is better than System of a Down, and I'm sure they didn't make this metal list.
Oh, God.
Let's not start smashing on Carcass now.
Let's not start lifting them up either. Let's not beat a dead carcass.
Okay, so at number 12, talk about influential, but a band I just wasn't into because it's too AC/DC-ish in terms of it just sounded too repetitious for me.
And it's not Van Halen or Dream Theater. Go ahead, Jen.
Why don't you shut up? At number 12, we have a record released in 1980. It is Ace of Spades by Motorhead. Without Motorhead, there would be no speed or thrash metal, heck, nor most anything known as extreme metal. And in Ace of Spades, Lemmy Kilmister's crusty band of outlaws, this guy sucks, crusty band of outlaws arguably delivered their definitive career statement. The title track has, of course, gone down as one of metal's most iconic songs, to the point it has obscured the similar genius of ensuing blasts like We Are the Road Crew and The Hammer. Motorhead's cool. I completely understand why, you know, all these like thrash bands have Motorhead as like an influence. I can hear why. I don't agree with their comment that it was like, you know, influencing extreme metal. I don't hear anything extreme metal in Motorhead. I just never got into Motorhead because, again, it's like listening to an AC/DC record. It's kind of like if you've heard one, you've heard them all to me. So, but influential, and Lemmy's the coolest fucker to ever live. So,
Well, I can reach over here and pull my Lemmy toys out, which I have 1, 2, 3.
Nice.
Look at that.
So I have all kinds of Lemmy. I am a definite Lemmy guy. And John, you know this. All 6 of my books have been dedicated to my grandfather, my father, and Lemmy.
Yep.
You know, because I am all about Lemmy and Motorhead. That being said, wrong. If this is the only Motorhead pick on the list, then it's the wrong pick on the list.
Which one
I would
you have
definitely
on
go
there?
with Bomber. Bomber's better. Overkill's better. Motorhead, the debut is better. Bastards is better. They went with Ace of Spades because that's the song everybody knows and it's easy to write an article on.
Yeah.
That's why. You know, it's not quite as easy to pick Bomber and say, yeah, you know, Lawn Man's a great song, man. It's people don't get it, but they know the song of Ace of Spades. Everybody does. This pick would be like if you're choosing one Ozzy record and you chose Blizzard of Oz because Crazy Train's on it.
Yeah.
Same sort of pick. Is it a good record? Sure, it's a good record, but nah. Wrong pick from Motorhead in my eyes.
Big Lemmy fan too. Somewhere I have an Orgasmatron lunchbox. Let me see if I can. Where that is.
Hopefully, it's not filled with anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
so
you knew Motorhead would be on here. You knew Ace of Spades would be on here. I knew it was coming. I don't have a huge problem with it. I mean, like Chris said, they picked it because it's got the song everyone knows. So,
yeah. Rob Karkuhanga says that he has a soft spot for Another Perfect Day, underrated album.
Good record, dude. Motorhead. The weird thing about Motorhead is, I think most people think that every song sounds like you said yourself, John. They're too repetitious. If you listen to them album for album, they're really not. They really have a lot of, slow songs, and do they have a lot of Ace of Spades type songs? Sure, but they also always have some change ups on every record. So,
it's also interesting to me that I don't, man. Again, I can kind of see why they influenced all these different metal bands, like everyone, but they always sound more rock and roll than metal to me for some reason.
Well, they said that themselves.
Yeah.
If you ever saw them live in concert, that was the first thing you heard before you heard a note of music was, "We are Motorhead. We play rock and roll." They didn't even consider themselves to be a metal band.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's weird. Like, it's a band I wish I got into more because of how influential they are. But I mean, it's like I appreciate them. I just don't listen to it.
Don't you think that their influence though was attitude? Like, there's a lot of people that want to be metal.
Oh, yeah.
The attitude of metal. Want to say fuck it, I don't care. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. These guys did it and didn't give a shit. I mean, Lemmy was out there playing shows on his deathbed.
Yeah.
I mean, he played what did he play? A show 3 weeks before he died, and barely crawled to the stage, and then after he went home and died.
Yeah.
That's metal. That's metal.
Yeah. I've got cancer. A week and a half later, dead.
Dead.
That was crazy.
They should put Jack Russell in that camp.
I was just about to bring that up. A little different. By the way, speaking of that, total side note, and then we'll move on. But I actually, I'd read something yesterday. I'm listening to the audiobook of that, Nothing But a Good Time, that book about, it's like the book about the 80s hair metal scene. And they were talking about Great White. And I was like, man, I wonder if there's any video out there of the Station nightclub fire. And I found the unedited stuff. And I was like, good. Oh boy, that is weird. I mean, dude, it was literally less than 5 minutes. It went from the show started to the entire place is nothing but a bonfire. It was unbelievable. And the it's not funny, but you hear when people start realizing that the place is on fire, you hear in the mic, you hear this, whoa, oh, that ain't good. And apparently it was Jack Russell. He just turned around, I was like, oh, that ain't good. I'm like, yeah, you think? So, all right, so let's move on to number 11. We are almost in the top 10. So this is a band. That
would be number 11, almost in the top 10.
Yes, well, that's what I'm saying. I said we're almost in the top 10. So this is a band I don't get. So I have nothing to say about this because I haven't listened to it, because all my friends love this band. Dream Theater fans love this band. I do not at all. I find them to be overrated, but whatever. This is a record released in 2001. It is Lateralis by Tool. Tool kept their loyal fans waiting all of 5 years for Lateralis, but every single day was worth it in the end. Even more so than its paradigm-shifting predecessors, the California Quartet's third long player, stop saying that, fundamentally redefined the heavy metal avant-garde with its textured exploration of dynamics, tension, and release, often spun to epic lengths on songs that seamlessly flowed into one another on a revolutionary scale of invention. I find that the long song format to be needless in their case. All of my buddies love them, especially my musician buddies, and I just do not get it. They're boring as shit.
You don't get any Tool or just this album?
I like Stinkfist.
I'll bet you do.
Let's focus on the songs, John.
Yeah.
I'm sure if I went through every record and listened to every song, there might be a couple others I might like. Even the really popular, so was it 46 and 2 or whatever the hell? There's a bunch of other stuff that, I don't get into it. It's people accuse Dream Theater of being too lengthy and too, but to me, Dream Theater, at least if you're going to do a 10-minute song, they have changes and different melodic parts and it moves around. It keeps your interest. Tool just gets into one groove and one idea and just kind of rides it. And it's like, oh God, I've heard this for the last 2 minutes. Move on.
Oh, that's untrue.
So-
But whatever. That's you. Not, that's you not knowing their catalog at all.
Well, everything I've heard, everything. Well, but
that's
what I'm
you
saying,
knowing the hits.
But you have to understand, like, it's not even that, because like my buddies, like, because I have this opinion, like, okay, well, will you watch Tool and I'll show you some of my favorite stuff. Like, they'll pull up live stuff on YouTube and all this other stuff, and everything they pull up, it just is like the same thing to me.
Dude,
It's the same formula.
If Perry Farrell fucked John Petrucci, this would be the child. Tool would be their child. It is the alternative rock version of Dream Theater.
All right, I mean, I'll go along with that.
All that being said, this is definitely not their best work. Their best work are the two before it, and Enema is by far the best. And I don't just say that because I was quoted in Maynard's book, but that's a whole other thing.
Name dropping, motherfucker.
Name dropping that one, dude. I got quoted in a book. I'm definitely proud of that moment. But now the problem with this record is that the production is flat. Like, the one thing that made Tool with the first two records was that production was very dynamic. And man, if you listen to it cranked all the way up in headphones, you hear an awful lot of stuff going on. You listen to this record, and certainly the last record that they did, it's just flat. Everything is very even, and there's not a whole lot of depth to it. So I don't know. I don't know anybody that even considers this record one of Tool's top records, let alone one of the top 15 in the world. In history, no way. Nah.
Yeah.
You should see if Maynard will put that on a T-shirt if Perry Farrell fucked John Petrucci.
Well, that's me reaching for another quote for his next book.
Yeah.
That'll be on the tour posters for the next Tool run.
It'll be like John Petrucci fucked Perry Farrell, and all I got was his Tool album. It's not a T-shirt. Right. No, I mean, I'm going to disagree with some of your stuff there, man. I absolutely love this album. I love The Grudge. I love Schism, Parabola, Ticks and Leashes. I can't speak. I do think there's plenty of people that consider this probably their
above
best.
The first two?
I think there's some. I'm not going to say
really?
all. I think there's some, yeah. I don't know about the production thing. Maybe I have to go back and listen to it. I'm not sure I totally buy all that, but I can see you've got to have some kind of Tool album, I think, up here, because I do think they are. I don't know. You kind of phrased it like they are an alternative form of metal, I think, is the best way to be. And I disagree with John. What they do take kind of these sort of what feel like basic concepts, but they put all of these polyrhythms around them, and they build them and they build them and they build them. They build all this harmonic tension. And that's what makes the band great. So either you kind of get on board with that style, or you don't. I don't think it's not a band you can kind of be sort of in the middle on.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you don't like them, John, because they are very. I mean, I don't want to say they sound like Dream Theater, but they sort of follow the blueprint.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's believe me, everybody likes it, and it's just one of those things. I'm like, what am I not getting? You know, I just
maybe if Eddie Van Halen would have joined the band.
There we go, fucking assholes. A lot of love for Lateralis in the chat, man. So
okay,
all right, let's get into the top 10.
Okay.
So this is a record that came out at number 10. It came out in 1971. It is Master of Reality by Black Sabbath. The cough heard round the world, courtesy of pop-worshipping opening number Sweetleaf. Master of Reality simultaneously launched the stoner metal subset and added to Black Sabbath's winning string with their third heavy metal classic in the span of some 15 months. Even decades later, dreary dirges of doom like After Forever, Children of the Grave, and Into the Void still stand among Sabbath's heaviest creations. Yeah, I'm like I said earlier, I'm a huge fan of this record. If I had a favorite Sabbath record, this would be it. I like every track on it. There's some, there's what the hell is that really wonky track? It's like an instrumental weird thing, but I like everything on this one. I like every single song. And when I think of Sabbath, I actually think of this one. I just think there's more flavors to it than the previous two for me. So I really dig
damn
it.
good.
Yeah, I mean,
I won't
Sweet Leaf is
argue that.
awesome. Yeah, I just really like every song. I mean, there, there's a couple little instrumental things that are weird, but to me, it's just, again, I think it's because it has more flavors than to me anyway, than Paranoid and Black Sabbath. So for that reason, I got into it more. And then, subsequent records had some cool stuff, but I didn't like every song. This is the only Sabbath record that I like every song. And I obviously we know that after this, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath was good, and whatever was it, Volume 4, whatever the hell it's called. Like, I mean, there was some good stuff, but then after, I mean, there were some real shit records with Ozzy at the end there. So,
technical ecstasy.
Yeah, just God. But yeah, I love this one. That having been said, I do have to question putting it ahead of Black Sabbath. It's the record. Because I think in terms of sheer influence, again, if we're talking influence as a deciding factor here, people are talking about Black Sabbath as opposed to Master of Reality. So where do you guys stand on this being number 10?
Brian?
Children of the Grave, probably one of my top 5 Ozzy songs. Into the Void, awesome. Sweet Leaf, the song, I like it. I don't love it. I don't know. I'm not totally in love with the album front to back the way Drake is. So I definitely I think this is a little high for me.
Okay.
Yeah, is it a good record? Sure. I think Paranoid's better. I think Heaven and Hell is better. Quite honestly, I think what is the one with
Forbidden?
No, not Forbidden. The first the first one that he did with the cross on the cover, the cross in the thing. I can't even think of it. I guess maybe I don't think it's better because I can't even think of the fucking name of it. But I liked some of the Tony Martin stuff a little better too. Personally, I don't hate it. Again, Black Sabbath really didn't do anything. The last 2 Ozzy records were kind of shit, but whatever.
Headless
Black
Cross.
Sabbath.
Are you thinking of Headless Cross?
Yes.
JG3 to the rescue.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jay says, by the way, great to see you, Jay, man. He says, Sabotage is the peak before the giant fall off in quality of Ozzy Sabbath. Then comes Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules to kick ass once again. Andrew Kraft, thanks for tuning in. He says, Ozzy sounds awesome on Solitude. The whole album has that light and shade. Andrew, thanks for tuning in, man. That's my whole thing on it, is that I think it's the first time you hear like a varied a varied sound out of them, and I thought it fit very well, and it was still quality. So I dig it. Again, I in terms of influence, I wouldn't have it higher than Black Sabbath, but I love it. All right, so let's move on to number 9. This is an interesting placement, but since we are in the top 10, I guess it fits. This is a record that came out in 1986. This is Peace Sells, But Who's Buying by Megadeth. Dave Mustaine proved his vow to exact musical revenge on former bandmates Metallica was no joke with his new band Megadeth's eye-opening sophomore album Peace Sells, But Who's Buying? A thrash metal tour de force, it blended impeccable technique with wanton savagery, fueled by inspired songwriting, all while displaying a rare emphasis, incisive political commentary that further set Megadeth apart from their peers. Punctuation is important, Mr. Writer. I think this is a great record, and it's always astounding to me the leap in quality from Killing Is My Business to this one. I mean, it sounds
as far
to me
as
like
songs or as far as recording quality.
Songs.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it obviously sounds better. I mean, they had a shit budget for that first record, but I mean, this record has always sounded to me like there should have been like an album or 2 of growth between Killing Is My Business and Peace Sells, but instead it was, we did Killing Is My Business, and then like a year later we do Peace Sells. It was like, I mean, that is just a staggering jump in knowing what the fuck you're doing within the span of 1 year to me. I love this record. I think it's awesome. I mean, you can't really say a bad thing about it. I mean,
it's a great record. Top 10 in my book.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I can't really disagree with the placement here, having it in the top 10. What about you, Brian?
Yeah, great sounding album. I have no problem at all. I'm like you. I remember hearing "Killing Is My Business," and I was like, "This, like, it's horrible. Like the production's horrible. I don't like the way he sings on it. This has so much. This has just attitude and riffs just dripping off of at the time my cassette player. You know, I mean, the killer album cover. I mean, these guys were the king of coming up with album covers.
Yes.
No one did it better for 4 or 5 albums or whatever it was. Like, I mean, the Vic Rattlehead. I had the poster. I don't have it anymore. I'm so pissed off. But I love every song on here. I mean, he's playing it just like he's going off the tracks on a roller coaster. You know, every single solo and just a great album. I have no problem where this is at all.
Me either. I again, as long as it's top 10, that's fine. But if Rust in Peace ain't higher up on this list, then it's a problem. Because Rust in Peace is a better record.
It probably won't be based on this list.
Yeah, probably not. That'll be the one for Megadeth.
I think we know that.
Yeah. I would completely agree with you, Chris and Brian, both on that one. Rust in Peace to me is just, that's like unfucking believable. Johan Alexanderson says, I went to see Megadeth a week or so ago. They still got it. Except for Dave's voice. Dave's voice is trash anymore, Johan, unfortunately. You know, I say that, and I know he had cancer, and so they have to tune way down now, but his voice sounded like shit before he did that. Brian and I actually went to see that Sofia, Bulgaria, the Big Four show, when that was like they had just announced it, and they actually released it in theaters. They showed it live, and we were like, "Ooh, God, Dave's voice sounds like crap." And
right.
I mean, we've said it before on the show that it's obviously re-recorded for the actual.
Yeah, then you had the DVDs. We're like, this is not the show I watched.
Yep, that is dude. That literally is the first thing that I did when I bought that Blu-ray. The first thing I did is put in the Megadeth set to see if they had redone the vocals, and I'm like, yep, redone, redone. And see, everyone's talking about euthanasia in the chat. That's a great one. Okay, this is gonna be a shock to you, Chris.
Yeah.
Jim Bartek, Jackal One says euthanasia is my favorite. That's bullshit. That is not your favorite. Just stop it.
Well, it's wrong, so that could be Jim's favorite.
It could be. I love euthanasia, but Jim, knowing your musical taste, there's no way that's your favorite. Like that, yeah. Doug McCauley nails it. Rust in Peace is everything Megadeth. Yeah. Hell yeah, dude. Yeah.
Euthanasia is a damn fine record too.
No, I agree. I just, you know, about like as their best, I would totally disagree, but
it's the very last record before the decline started.
Yes, I agree with that. Kale McLeish says, you saw how Chris went off on 13. I dare not speak on Risk.
Oh, no.
Don't even.
No.
Like,
that's one of my favorite board games. I love Risk.
I'd rather play the board game than listen to the album.
Yes.
That album is a turd.
All right, so here's one which also totally agree with the placement, and I guess it could be debated, should it be higher? At number 8, we have a record that was released in 1984. We have Ride the Lightning by Metallica. Metallica's musical range and overall polish grew by leaps and bounds between Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning, which kept the pedal to the metal with newly minted thrashers like Fight Fire with Fire and Creeping Death, while slowing things down for the benefit of regular metal fans on the colossal For Whom the Bell Tolls and Suicide Ballad Fade to Black. I mean, I could see this being a top 10 record. I love it. This was, I'm trying to think what order I discovered. I discovered Injustice for All first. I don't remember if this was the second one I listened to. I think it was. I think after that, like I went to the library to take out the tapes and shit because I was a little kid, and I think this was the one that they had in at the time. So that, you know, my next introduction to Metallica after Injustice for All started out with Fight Fire with Fire. And anytime that happens, you're like, okay, I think I officially love this band. So every song is great. I'll even debate people that don't like, you know, something like Escape. I just think that song's got, you know, some cool stuff going on in it. Trapped Under Ice, you know, is awesome. Very, very underrated. Call of Cthulhu never gets talked about as a great instrumental. And obviously all the rest of it is, you know, a bunch of hits. But this record just fucking slams. And I know, Akin, you have kind of like a personal story about this one. So
Well, it's definitely my first Metallica record. It was handed to me by James and Lars at the CMJ festival when I was in high school radio at WSTB in Streetsboro. We went to the CMJ as a field trip, like a 3-day overnight field trip, and I saw Metallica play in a ballroom at like 2 a.m. or something. There was no one in there. There was me, one other guy, and like staff, and Metallica just fucking destroyed. I mean, it was crazy. And then 2 days later, when the thing ended, like they had all the bands that had played over the week giving away tchotchkes and whatever. And I walked up on Metallica on their little booth, and I was like, "You guys kicked ass the other night." And James says to me, he goes, "You were there?" I was like, "Yeah, I was one of those two. I was one of those two that was there." And Lars turned around and he had albums like with the hole punch through them on like a string, and he pulled the string off and pulled one off and gave me the album and wrote "Buy Our Shit Please" real big on the album. I still have it here somewhere, but yeah, that was my first introduction to Metallica, and I was all of a sudden all the hair metal was done in my life.
Right.
From that moment on. I mean, I still listened to it because the girls did, but in my real listening was all heavy from that minute on. It was crazy. But yeah, love this record. Fantastic album.
Brian.
Yeah, I think the third one's coming up later, so I'm not going to say. But there's 3 albums I could put an argument for number one, and this is one of the 3. I think this is the pure definition of what metal, sort of the modern kind of metal from 80 on to now. You hear something like the title track, Ride the Lightning, or For Whom the Bell Tolls, and like you wouldn't have what metal sounds like today without this album, I don't think at all. These guys they just absolutely crushed it with the style, and it was so unique. And I know he was supposedly so influenced by new wave of British heavy metal, but their spin on it and the way that James, his vocal delivery is just killer, and the way the guitars work in harmony on it is awesome. And even if you hate Lars drumming, this drumming is still cool on it.
Well, I love Lars's drumming on the first 5 records. I mean, the Black Album drumming on the album totally fits. The tour is when I started to get pissed, because he applied that simplistic drumming to shit like, Fight Fire with Fire,
right, and
stuff like that. Ride the. It's like, stop it, like stop butchering your own. I just hate that. But yeah, I mean, this to me is kind of like where they got that Metallica sound. Like you mentioned how they were so influenced by the new album stuff, and I think that was, I hate to use the term derivative for Kill 'Em All, but you could definitely hear they were wearing their influences on their sleeve.
Yep.
And I think on Ride the Lightning is when they kind of broke out into that Metallica sound we would all come to fall in love with, I think. So, Cam McLeish, he says, Escape still rocks, but if something has to be the worst. Doug McCauley says the weaker songs on Ride are better than most of this list.
That is true.
Chuck 74. One of 2. He should have recognized you.
It's true.
I like that one right there. Go ahead.
Yeah. Adopa says it's the perfect blend of rawness and Kill 'Em All and the more polished Master of Puppets. Yeah, I mean, it does fit between those records perfectly. That's
worded beautifully like that. That's exactly what it is.
That's a great opinion, man. All right, so moving up to number 7, we have a record that was released in 1982. We have Screaming for Vengeance by Judas Priest. Judas Priest were at the top of their game on 1982's Screaming for Vengeance, which found the heavy metal veterans pretty much cruising almost 10 years into their recording career and taking America by storm, both in the charts and on the road. Decades later, songs like Electric Eye and You've Got Another Thing Coming remain pillars of the band's discography. Yeah, a lot of great songs on this record. However, this record's huge, and I have to admit, some of the songs on it I'm not really a big fan of. So it's always kind of surprised me that this is like so legendary. But I mean, it's awesome. Don't get me wrong. I think I would have put like something like British Steel maybe above it, or Defenders of the Faith potentially, but probably British Steel. But where do you guys stand?
This one and Defenders are sort of the same record. They,
Yeah.
I honestly, I know that they did like Ram It Down and Turbo at the same time. Like they wrote those. I still believe, even though Halford has said a million times it's not true, I still believe that they just wrote those two records in one session, and it became Defenders and Screamin', because they sound exactly the same.
Right.
Great. They were at their height. I mean, as one of their heights. They're definitely a roller coaster band. It definitely is a great record. Seeing it live as a kid, oh my God, dude! Honestly, of all the shows that I've seen, and I don't rate it as one of the top 5 I've ever seen ever, because I've seen Priest so many times now that it's hard to put anything there.
Yeah.
But man, seeing it when I was, 14 or 15 years old and had the big old claws that came out and lifted the guitar players up while they were playing and stuff, I was blown away by the concert version of it. The concert was just so over the top for the time. And then you follow not too long after that. Here comes Dio with the fighting dragons and shit. And, I mean, it was the perfect time for the excess that was coming in. They didn't change their sound. Like, they still stayed heavy, but they played into every single other bit of the excess of the 80s. If you look at them, they all had the big hair. They're wearing all the red and colorful leather jackets instead of black jackets at this point. So they like took what was selling but kept being metal. And yeah, it's a great record. And I'm with you. British Steel should be above it. If it's not, it should be. Painkiller might even be above it, but Painkiller was just kind of like a rebound record, so I think that's why it's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have any problem with this one being on the list at all.
What about you, Brian?
Oh my God! So this was my third. When I was talking, I had 3 that I think legit have a claim to number 1. I absolutely love this album. This was my first foray into the Columbia Record and Tape Club.
Did you pay them or did you steal them?
Well, I paid for I paid my initial $1 for my 12 or whatever. And so, because back then it's like there's all these albums I want to get. Well, the only way I can get them is by joining the Columbia Record and Tape Club. So,
Right.
So I did. And this was one of the ones I got, and I remember I didn't even really necessarily know Priest. I just remember seeing they have the album covers and going, man, this looks really cool. And then you just open it with that and you're just like, what the hell is this? Like, this is just metal, pure, defined in its purest form. This is heavy metal, and I mean. I think an album like this and a band like this and kind of what they are sort of turning into the way Chris was describing. They are sort of the inspiration for Spinal Tap, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, legit, this album, this tour, the way they looked and everything, and especially subsequent ones. But, I mean, you start out Electric Eye, The Hellion, Riding on the Wind, Bloodstone, I mean, Screaming for Vengeance, Another Thing Coming, Devil's Child. I love that song.
Yeah,
I mean, even Fever. I mean, every song has a killer riff in it. Every song is great, and I just think it's a masterpiece. I mean, the album cover is just like freaks you the hell out. I can't imagine seeing this live the way you did. That sounds absolutely amazing.
It was nuts. It was so good. And what was I can only speak for myself, but what was weird for me was at that point I really hadn't been to a lot of metal shows. I had been to like Motley Crue and Metallica, but that was like a one-off thing. And then almost all the rest of my shit was like Madonna and Corey Hart. So you go from that to just huge stage, big blowout. The closest, and this is going to make John come, so step back, John. The closest to this, I would say at the time, would have been Van Halen. Seeing Van Halen with the giant stage where they were literally yanking seats out of the Coliseum so that they could put the stage in, and just a huge giant stage with a lot of stuff going on. But Priest just had so much more going on. I mean, it was a show, not a concert. It was a definite show. Yep. It was amazing stuff. Great time for them.
So Chuck 74, he says, I take Point of Entry over British Steel. I'm weird, I know. And he
You are,
backs that
Chuck.
up.
Yes.
Well, he backs that up with a prior comment in the chat where he says, Lars is the modern day Ringo. Takes a lot of shit, but put another drummer in that band and you don't have Metallica. Yeah, you have a band that's still kicking ass. Lars destroys Metallica. He is the weak link and he oversimplifies shit. James can still bring it. The rest of the guys can still bring it. Lars is god awful. If you want proof of that, just look at the show at that German festival years, like, God, was it like, now it was like early 2000s, maybe mid 2000s, when Lars got sick at the last minute, couldn't do it, and they had guys like Joey Jordison and Dave Lombardo sit in, and you're like, oh, this is what Metallica is supposed to sound like. And you could even see it on James's face. He was kind of like, fuck yeah, dude, this is, here we go.
Well, I think his point is, like, he was the creative and the driving force to get them to where they are. Like, there was no way Hetfield was capable of doing all that with all his fucking demons. Like, Lars had this tunnel vision. I'm doing this. This is how we're going to do it. And I think I agree with what he says.
I don't know. They were talking about firing Lars after Puppets, and I think Puppets was so big that I think they could have.
Yeah, but that's way after the fact. Lars already got him to that point. They would never have got there without Lars. I don't see it.
Look what happened when they all started making decisions as a community.
Yep.
I mean, they started making community decisions. You got Load and Reload and Ain't My Bitch and, Low Man's Lyric.
You had
and,
Kurt,
where everybody started, well, I want my part. Well, I want my part. And then you get Fixer. It's like, Jesus Christ, what are we doing here?
Go away.
And Kirk crying during the documentary. I was like, what are we doing here? It's like, just go get your wah-wah pedal.
Yeah.
No wonder you play the wah so much because you cry all the time.
Just go surf, faggot. Jesus Christ.
Nice. All right, so these top 6, I think you can debate the placement of them, but in terms of influence, I think these are just beyond reproach. At number 6, it was released in 1980. We have Blizzard of Oz by Ozzy Osbourne. One of heavy metal's greatest comeback stories, Ozzy Osbourne silenced a world of naysayers when he rose from the ashes of his ugly departure from Black Sabbath on the winds of his Blizzard of Oz. With the incomparable guitar phenom Randy Rhoads by his side, Ozzy helped shape 80s metal with songs like Crazy Train, Suicide Solution, and Mr. Crowley. It's hard to debate. Personally, in terms of Ozzy records, my favorite is Diary of a Madman. But I think you putting Blizzard of Oz up here is kind of a must. But I also think that it needs to be said. I will always defend this. I mean, I don't think this is a hot take at all, but everyone says, oh, Ozzy, this was his comeback. Okay, well, but Randy Rhoads should get a little bit more credit in that comeback than I think he does, because it's almost like when people say, oh, Van Halen was nothing without David Lee Roth. Well, yeah, but Eddie was writing such goddamn good songs that they still would have been awesome. And I think Randy Rhoads writing the songs he did for Blizzard of Oz, I think they still would have been kick-ass songs with somebody else singing them. So I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. And I don't hear that a lot. I hear about what a great guitar player he is, but I think, him being the quintessential reason that Ozzy, was able to quote unquote rise from the ashes. I don't think that gets mentioned enough. And that always kind of surprises me, but this record's overplayed to me. I have to admit. I think that's just because the songs are so good and we do hear them so often. But I mean, it is awesome. But again, I prefer Diary because I think it's a little more diverse. So that's just a personal preference. But do you guys agree with this being number 6 all time? I know, Akin, you kind of alluded to it, earlier that I don't think you do. So
not when you've got Scream and Black Rain out there. I mean, Jesus, come on.
You mean Ordinary Man isn't in your top? Like
Patient number 9, baby.
Oh, God.
No, Diary. As far as the old stuff, Diary is a far better record.
Yeah,
and maybe it's because they had a little bit of time to put it together. Where they put together the first one in what, a week.
Yeah, I mean, it came together pretty quickly. Yeah,
but you want to talk about the great songs of Ozzy. I'll take Flying High Again and Over the Mountain over Crazy Train and Suicide Solution or Mr. Crowley or whatever. Right. I mean, that said, is it a great record? Yes. Is it overplayed? Certainly. I could go the rest of my life without hearing Crazy Train again, because now it's related. Now when you hear it, you think about kids at a football game. You don't think about the darkness biting the head off a bat.
Yeah.
My favorite Ozzy album is and always will be No More Tears, and I'll fight anybody over that.
Okay.
But yeah, is it a bad placement if you're going to have one? No, not really. I think it's kind of weird that you have 3 Ozzy records in the top 25, but that's just me.
Yeah, Randy. This album is 75% Randy Rhoads, 25% Ozzy. I mean, he made this band. He created a whole new sound. This sounds nothing at all like Black Sabbath, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
He sort of took the Eddie Van Halen thing into a more metal direction, I guess. More classical metal direction. Crazy Train obviously burned out. I still love I Don't Know. I still love Suicide Solution. Mr. Crowley, I love.
No Bone Movies.
Yeah, which is the weirdest song.
Yeah, it makes no sense, but who cares?
Songs ever. Yeah, but, I mean, Revelation of Mother Earth is great too.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, this album, I think you probably got to put top 10. I'm not going to argue. I love the songs on Diary better, but they had growth as a band at that point, and Randy was officially in the band or whatever, and probably knew more how to write around with Ozzy and stuff at that point too.
Yeah. Mike's Musical Rehab says, I hate when people compare Randy and Eddie, but I think they were 2 totally different playing styles. I agree with that, actually, Mike. I think, Eddie was more rock and roll. And Randy Rhoads was definitely, I think, along with I would say Richie Blackmore, kind of like the neoclassical thing that so many guys kind of emulated afterwards. I mean, it definitely was different. I think that, the way to compare them is their level of influence. I mean, Eddie and Hendrix are the 2 most influential guitar players ever, in my opinion. But I think Randy Rhoads definitely influenced, kind of a generation of shredders afterwards with, again, that kind of neoclassical sound. So it was, he had even said, at the time of his death, one of his things he was working on was combining classical guitar, the nylon string finger pick and stuff, with metal. He wanted to have this hybrid thing going on. So I would agree with that, man. I would agree with that. Oddly enough, we're getting some love for Patient Number 9 and Ordinary Man in the chat. I don't want to bring those up because oh God, you guys. Yeah. All right. Well, okay. You guys are more than entitled to your opinion, I suppose.
Ordinary Man, I don't get. I mean, first of all, you're singing songs with Elton John. There's nothing metal about that, and I like Elton John, but there's nothing metal about that. And then B, you're doing it without a guitar player. Well, I'm sorry, the guy from the California Breed or whatever is the guitar player.
Thank you.
No.
Ozzy has to have a shredding ass guitar player.
Yeah.
Don't give me this strumming new guy or whatever the hell.
Not that guy that. His claim to fame is as in the 4th iteration of a Glenn Hughes side project. Fuck off.
Yes. Yep.
Hey, I saw them open for Alter Bridge. They were actually good.
I walked out. No, I was. That was the night that I took Stephanie to meet Alter Bridge.
Yeah.
Was it?
Uh-huh.
And we ended up with, they were playing and we didn't see them because we were waiting in line to meet Alter Bridge. Probably a good move.
Nice. All right, so number 5, I don't think there can be any disagreement on this one. This is a record that was released in 1992. It's one of the most appropriate album covers in the history of music because it basically describes what is about to be done to you when you listen to this album. It is, of course, Vulgar Display of Power by Pantera. If Pantera's uncompromising vulgar display of power didn't save heavy metal outright during the early 90s grunge assault, it certainly showed the way forward for scores of beleaguered metal merchants. In fact, muscular pulverizing offerings like Mouth for War, Walk, and Fucking Hostile, soon simplified with the groove metal tag, fed into fans' similarly embattled frame of mind and gave them something to rally around. Yeah, I mean, Vulgar Display, what the fuck can you say? It's a giant punch in the face, and it was so fresh back then. It was just absolutely punishing. Yeah, top 5 best metal records ever. Yes, completely agree.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it's I know, Akin, that your favorite is Trendkill.
Yep.
I always
That
have a
being
hard.
said, on this kind of a list, yeah, of course, it's vulgar.
Yeah, I mean,
And again, there's songs on this I could go the rest of my life never hearing. You know, do
Like
you really
hits,
want to hear? Yeah. Do you really want to hear "Walk" again? You know,
Mouth
not
for
especially
War, like,
"Mouth for War."
yeah. And
You
yet,
know?
when you're at the show and they bust into it, you're kind of like, God, this kicks ass,
Dude, when I saw him in November, again, "Walk," which I can't stand anymore. I'm right there. You know, I'm right there doing it.
So here's a question in the chat real quick. It's not so much a question, but it kind of is a question. Doug McCauley says, "Bitchin' album, bitchin' band, greatest guitar work in metal, probably."
For vulgar?
Yeah, I will say this. My buddy Nick, who is an absolutely slamming guitar player, he's very, very well trained, and he's just an excellent player. He says that Dimebag is the best metal guitarist, period. And I have a hard time disagreeing with that. I think he combines shred with feel and melody in a way that nobody else really achieved. Look at this. Jim Bartek, "Walk" sucks. Shut up, Jim. Good Lord. Yeah, I think Dime.
Jim's probably into power metal or "I Am the Night."
PT88.
That's right.
Right. Yeah, I gotta say, Doug, I agree with that. I just think Dime brought something to the table that nobody else did, and it's
a
to this
real
day
tough
so
argument.
unique.
It's a real tough argument. Made tougher by what if Randy would have had 5 more years? Because he could have really expanded the Ozzy sound.
Yeah, true.
You know, I mean, he was expanding Ozzy's complete musical direction. And again, who am I to say anything bad about Dimebag? Come on.
Yeah. I think Rocket Man. Hey, don't diss power metal. What I will say about that, I think Dimebag's style was it's hard to say this because Randy was the kind of the first to do it, but I was going to say Dimebag might be a little more unique. That was one of those guitar sounds like you knew the second you heard like 3 notes that it was Dimebag. I mean, the perfect example is like, you know, if you didn't tell people on those Anthrax records, you know, the John Bush records on the last 3, if you didn't tell people on a couple of those songs that it was Dimebag soloing, you wouldn't have to tell them. People would go, "Oh, that's Dimebag, dude." You know, like that.
You don't think you get that on the 2 Ozzy records versus any other Ozzy record?
Man, I honestly I'd have to think about it because it's so close.
It's
because I mean it's
saying best is just subjective, you know. I mean, he created a sound.
That's true.
That's
true. The best is CC DeVille. Let's stop all the argument here.
No, I mean he completely created a style and a sound, and Chris will hate me for saying this because I know he loves Phil Anselmo's other projects, but
I do.
But I think I don't know. I think Dimebag kind of maxed out on what he could do with them because of Phil in a way.
Interesting. Okay. No.
No, not at all. It's okay.
All right.
I mean, it's no metal magic. Let's say that.
That is true.
Nice. All right. So let's get to the top 4 here. This is a record released in 1986. It is "Rain in Blood" by Slayer. The most intense 30 minutes in music history and probably the ultimate thrash album when all is said and done. "Rain in Blood" transformed Slayer from band to religion almost overnight. With its controversial themes, inspired songwriting, and breathless blitzkrieg, Rain was the complete package, pissing off parents and seducing their kids just like the best heavy metal should. I will take issue with one comment there and say, you know, inspired songwriting, it's good. I don't know if I would say inspire. I mean, when you're talking about a 2-minute and 15-second song, it's just it's like, okay, well, that's just, you know, let's take the most thrashy, controversial vocal, the most fastest drums, like speed guitar if we possibly can, and chuck it together. And, you know, the whole record kind of like bleeds together for me as almost like one giant 32-minute piece of music with very few exceptions in there, namely the bookend tracks. That being said, I think it is awesome. I think it's actually the perfect length, because when you're just getting your face sawed off like that, that's not something you're going to sit through for like an hour, but for like 32 minutes, like, fuck yeah, dude. And I mean, it is like, holy shit. Like, that is definitely a statement and a half. So I have no problem with this being as high as it is at number 4. And in fact, I could make an argument that it should be in the top 3 somewhere. So what do you guys think?
I'd flip it with Seasons.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because the list is the list supposed to be influential or just best?
Well, it says best, but again,
so
I
by
think
best, I think that the better Slayer record should be up higher. But
okay, well, I mean,
but I don't have any problem with it being it should be on this list somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, if you're flip flopping them, you're then putting it at number 22. And so it's definitely not 22.
Well, it's not number 22, but neither was Seasons of the Abyss. That's kind of my point.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah, I'd say top 10 for sure. The first time I heard this, I remember reading about how they were getting their major label deal and it was coming out. And I was like, I think I bought it a couple days after on cassette. And I was like, and I only had a little bit of, I had one of those, like, Chris, remember those compilation. It wasn't put out by maybe it was even a Hit Parader one. It was like a red
Concrete
cassette.
Corner or something.
Yeah, it might have been. It had like Lay's Rocket, Slayer, and
Lay's Rocket, wow.
and Q5 before they turned into like that like 80s like hair thing or whatever they did on the one out. And every song on there was great. And I think it was At Dawn They Sleep, I think was the Slayer one that was on there. But anyway. And I thought it was like, it was okay, but I was interested to hear it. And I remember I put it in. I literally just front to back the whole thing. I listened to it, I think, like 3 times in a row. And I was like, my mind was just totally blown. And it really wasn't the kind of stuff that I necessarily would have been into or even am into now. But it's just the raw power and energy of it. And there was probably a lot of punk stuff back in the day that was maybe similar and heavy, but I was never really into that. But I just heard it, and I was just like, this is for sure a top 10. I think it's got to be.
It's damn good. I'm not arguing that point at all. I'm just saying I think that Seasons is a better Slayer record, personally.
I would agree with that. So I think this is the perfect example on this list of influence being a deciding factor as to where things are. Bob Hurd says, I get Rain and Blood, but Seasons is superior. JG3 says, Rain and Blood is barely an EP. Look, man, if Rainbow can have a 6-song full album, Slayer can have a 32-minute full album. Mike's Musical Rehab says, I agree with this. When I heard this when it came out, I'd never heard anything like it. JG3. Seasons is the better Seven Dust record. Nice. Seven Dust rules. I don't care what anybody says.
And they're not on this list. That's criminal.
Yes. All right, so let's get into the top 3.
Okay.
At number 3, we have an album that was released in 1982.
Finally.
Can
Jesus, I was wondering if this band's even going to make the list.
Can you guess what album it is?
I'm going to say it's Number of the Beast.
Chris?
Actually, I'm off by a year.
82.
Is Number of the Beast 81?
I
might be off by a year.
Run to the Hills? I don't know. 82.
Well, that's on Number of the Beast.
Is it Autograph Sign In, please?
Hey, don't diss that album.
Actually, we're both wrong. At number 3, released in 1982, we have Diver Down by Van Halen.
Oh, my God. As metal?
Get out of here.
Yeah, fuck
the
you,
Full
troll.
Bug, that's metal? Pretty Woman is metal?
That's not on this list. He's just
No.
Not to mention, isn't that like 83?
No, it's 1982.
All right.
Brian, you were correct. It is The Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden.
Okay, my God, I was starting to get worried there.
Iron Maiden's 3rd LP overall and their first with singer Bruce Dickinson. The Number of the Beast is probably the 80s quintessential pure heavy metal album. Every metalhead worth his or her salt can usually recite most of the lyrics to the galloping Run to the Hills, the occult-laced title cut, and the dramatic mini-epic Hallowed Be Thy Name. And then there are next tier classics like 22 Acacia Avenue, Children of the Damned, etc. Yeah, this again is not my favorite Maiden record, but I think it's the most consistent Maiden record, and I totally get it for Influence. I mean, it's this is like awesome
for Influence. Sure, is it my favorite? Not even close. But it'd probably be like 4 or 5 on my favorites from Maiden. But is it good? Sure, I'll take it. Why not?
I have to admit, every song is good. I do like every song
I agree.
on it. Hallowed Be Thy Name is a little overplayed for me. Run to the Hills I actually kind of dig. There's something about it like I don't mind if they play it all the time. But I do like 22 Acacia Avenue. What's the slow song? I'm drawing a blank on. Isn't there like a slow one on here?
Children of the Damned is a little slower.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
I love
that
Children of
song's
the
great.
Damned.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know
Prisoner's great. Love that song.
I'm a prisoner. So I know Brian, you're a big Maiden fan. So talk a little bit about this one. I mean, do you agree this being top 3? I would assume you do.
I guess I'll go with Chris. It's probably not my favorite album, but I can see why someone would put this in the top 5. I was starting to get a little scared there. Like, if we don't have Maiden in this list, we need to find whoever made this and
Right.
like literally shoot them. But yeah, I remember the first time I heard this, a buddy of mine turned me on to Maiden. He's like, check this out, and I was like, oh my god, he played Run to the Hills and Number of the Beast, and I heard we listened basically the whole tape front and back, and this is kind of my early years of just starting to get into all this kind of music, and I was just instantly hooked. I didn't realize that Bruce Dickinson was like the new singer. I didn't know anything about the old stuff at all at that point, and
Sure.
Just a great band to be introduced to, and then like literally a year or two later, all of a sudden Peace of Mind comes out, and then you get Power Slave. It's like, man, what a 3-run first,
Well, and then Somewhere in Time.
Somewhere in Time I love too.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And we did a show where I said I'd love Seven Sons still too.
Me too.
So, I mean,
yeah.
It's like, I don't know. It's hard to top a 5-album run like that. I guess we're at.
Yeah.
Like, just for a guy who just joined the band, and Nico had joined the band. Clive Burr was still on that, wasn't he?
I think he was. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's still on
Yeah.
that. So Nico hadn't even joined yet, but
Nico was Peace of Mind. I'm pretty sure.
yeah. So they new singer, new drummer, and everything, and coming right behind him. But yeah, I mean, those guitar tones are just they took everything that Sabbath did on like Heaven and Hell and like notched it up a little bit more.
Yep, totally agree, man. All right, we are in the top 2. At number 2, this is not a surprise at all. This is a record released in 1986. We are talking, of course, about Van Halen's 5150, one of the greatest records ever recorded. And yeah, definitely. Anyway, 1986, this is not a surprise, although it might be a little bit of a surprise that it's not number 1, I think. But we are, of course, talking about Master of Puppets by Metallica. The most widely acclaimed expression of Metallica's original thrash metal vision, Master of Puppets has justifiably gone down as the thrash god's magnum opus and, by extension, one of heavy metal's ultimate albums. Half of its songs are thrash metal standards, and others, like Disposable Heroes and Orion, trump the best work of most of the competition. The only thing I'll say there is I love Orion. It's great, but I think it's a little overrated by a lot of people. Other than that, this record is just fucking great. I'm obviously on record as having Justice as my favorite Metallica record. It's like one of my top 2 of all time. But I mean, the word undeniable, I think is aptly used here. I don't think there's anybody that can call themselves a metal fan that can say, I don't like Master of Puppets. I mean, it's impossible to dislike this record. I mean, it's just, there's no fucking way anybody can dislike Master of Puppets. There's just not. I mean, Battery, the thing that should not be is
Heroes.
Yeah, Disposable Heroes is, yeah, that's what I was just about to say. Like, but I mean, every song is just holy shit, man. Even the deep cuts like Leper Messiah, it's hard to call Damage Inc. a deep cut, but I mean, people do think of other songs ahead of it. But they're just, I mean, this record is just, again, it's undeniable. So having it in the top 2 is completely justified, and I will always listen to a case for it being number 1. What about you, Brian?
Well, didn't we have an episode? We put this up against Justice. Is that the one we did?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the
cage
hardest
match.
thing I ever had to do was like a couple times, like literally take Justice over that. Now I'm like second guessing myself. So you use the word undeniable. I have a word, neat. This is a really neat. No, I mean, this is an instant classic. I mean, I'm starting to. So this is number 2.
Yeah, number 2.
Okay, so we're missing an obvious band here that I'm sure we're going to bring up once we're done, because there's no way they're going to be number 1. But yeah, man, I mean this is just one of the greatest all time metal albums. Top. I mean, there's no. I guess I could put this as another argument for possibly number 1 if you want. I still take Ride the Lightning a little bit over it, only because of sort of the way it influenced everything, even though I know that's not what this list is supposed to be. But yeah, I mean, Disposable Heroes, Leper Messiah, you're just naming off, just a giant metal home run after home run there. So that's all I got to say about it.
Akin, what about you?
It's my number 1. Unless, I mean, number 1 better be Rust in Peace, or else this list is completely flawed. I go back and forth between this and Rust in Peace, kind of 1A and 1B more than 1 and 2. But yeah, come on, it's the greatest metal album ever made. Period. Everything about it is great. Everything, from the art to the music to the sound.
Yep.
Even the production. I like the production on it. I know a lot of people bitch about Fleming's production, but I love it. I love it. It's just a perfect record. I think I've probably played it literal number 10,000 times. I play it. I can think of many days that I've played it 2 and 3 times over and over again. Just keep playing it. It's that good. Yeah, to me, it's the best album ever.
Yeah, there's not too much to say. It's just, again, it's damn near perfect. So Kale McLeish is making a very good, strong case to get banned from the chat permanently. He says, here's 7 great songs and the thing that should not be. The most aptly named song of the 80s. Kale, I will say this with all love. Fuck you, you are wrong. The thing that should not be is absolutely brutal and kick fucking ass. That song rules. I don't know how anybody can deny that tune. Oh, God, that song is amazing.
Just go back to your rose tattoo, Kale. Jesus.
Before you get to number 1, and we know it's not going to be Rust in Peace, let's just be honest. All right, what do you think is going to be number 1, Chris? I have an idea.
I do think it's going to be Rust in Peace.
I think it's going to be Paranoid.
Okay.
And I'm not saying I agree with it. I just, based on the way this list has gone, I think it is going to be Paranoid.
It could be, but if it is, that's just pathetic.
Alrighty. Well, you guys are both wrong. We have a record released in 1997, and of course we are talking about the incredibly perfect Falling into Infinity by Dream Theater.
Shut up.
Stop it.
Brian, actually, he nailed it again. He got all of the top 3. It is released in 1970. It is Paranoid by
ridiculous.
Black Sabbath, the ultimate heavy metal prototype. Paranoid improved upon Black Sabbath's template-setting debut and proved this heavy metal thing was no fluke when it topped the UK charts and shifted millions of copies in America. And how could it not, with Leviathan Doom anthems for the ages like War Pigs, Iron Man, and Hand of Doom, plus the title track's efficient bludgeoning, serving as a welcome change of pace hit. Yeah, I think I might side with you, Akin.
That is a ridiculous pick.
I don't. Yeah, I don't
necessarily agree with. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I can understand. I can understand the logic, I guess.
Look at JG3. Black Sabbath isn't even good. What a mediocre band.
Stop it now. That's a little ridiculous.
I'm gonna have to call bullshit on that one, Jay.
I'm gonna say this much though. Saying that Tool and Mastodon and Dream Theater are better than Rust in Peace is a fucking lie. That's just a lie. That's somebody that doesn't listen to metal. Period. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I would tend to. I like Dream Theater better than Megadeth, but I do have to say Rust in Peace not being in the top 25 is like egregiously just
I'm gonna
wrong
let you
in
keep.
every way.
I'm gonna let you keep any Dream Theater album or Rust in Peace.
Ooh.
You're keeping Rust in Peace. Stop it.
I think I might have to.
That's what I'm saying.
I think I might have to.
I love that album, not quite to the degree you guys are, so I wouldn't go that far. But the fact the big one that's missing in here, Among the Living. What the fuck?
Yeah, no Anthrax either. What the hell?
I mean, Among the Living has to be minimum top 15. I would think. I don't know how that's not in there. I have no idea.
That's true too. Yeah. How do you have one of the big four not in the top 10 at least?
Yeah. I wouldn't put Paranoid up. I mean, if especially because if you're using influence as one of the criteria, why wouldn't Black Sabbath be ranked ahead of Paranoid? It came first. It was the blueprint.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
come on.
All right,
and
so
three Black Sabbath albums, but no Anthrax and no Rust in Peace.
Well, we had 3 Ronnie James Dio albums too.
Which I question that too. I mean, look, I love Ronnie James Dio, but there's no way in hell am I putting Holy Diver over Rust in Peace. That's lunacy.
So we'll do a power round real quick of the other half of the list, 26 through 50. Do you guys want me to go 26 through 50 or 50 through 26? Like start at the worst to first type of thing?
Yeah, start at the worst.
Yeah, go to the worst and go up.
All right. Well, as we said, number 50, we have Accepts Balls to the Wall, 1983. At number 49, let's see if I can pronounce this right. It was released in 1994. We have De Mysterious Dum Sathanis by Mayhem. Okay, some black metal.
Definitely agree.
At number 48, we have 1999's Slipknot by Slipknot, so the debut record. At number 47, we have released in 92, excuse me. At number 47, we have Tomb of the Mutilated by Cannibal Corpse. At number 46, released in 1992, we have A Blaze in the Northern Sky by Dark Throne. Okay. At number 45, released in 1980, we have Iron Maiden by Iron Maiden. And at number 44,
glad that it beat out Dark Throne.
Yeah, right. Right. At number 44,
and whatever
released
the one John couldn't pronounce.
God, yeah, Mayhem, exactly. Released in 1989, number 44 is Altars of Madness by Morbid Angel. Released in 1987, number 43 is Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1 by Halloween. Brian, I know you're a big Halloween guy.
I am too.
I'll take that.
Okay. At number 42, released in 1999, Times of Grace by Neurosis. Okay.
See, this list blows dick. This list is just reaching for niche cush picks. Yeah, Neurosis is in no human being's top 50, and I like them.
Yeah.
I am a big fan of them. Steve Von Till is great. There's no fucking way that there is a Neurosis record in the top 50. Stop it.
Doug McCauley, what a fucked up weird list, John. Thanks for this, I think.
Hey, the guy that wrote it wins, though, because we're doing a whole episode talking about it.
I know, right? So at number 41, released in 1987, we have Abigail by King Diamond.
I'm all right with that. I'll take that.
At number 40, released in 1984, we have Bathory by Bathory.
God.
Come on.
If you think Venom production is bad, go listen to that Bathory stuff.
Or Mayhem. Mayhem has god-awful fucking production as well. Jesus.
So Bathory is ahead of the original Iron Maiden record. Okay, sure.
Yeah, sure.
This isn't even metal, man. I mean, if you want to look at it that way, I guess, but I don't. Number 39, released in 1994, the debut self-titled record by Korn. Okay. Number 38, released in 1984, we have "Don't Break the Oath" by Merciful Fate.
That's okay.
That's
Yeah.
good pick.
Okay, who's got this in here? At number 37, released in 1997, "Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk" by Emperor. Alrighty.
This dude was just looking at somebody else's list and picking names.
I know. This is, oh my gosh. At number 36, released in 1991, "The Black Album" by Metallica. At number 35, released in 1984, we have "Power Slave" by Iron Maiden.
God, finally.
Wow.
I was starting to get worried
Our
there.
slave made it, huh?
I was getting very scared there for a minute.
Yeah. Number 34, released in 1991, we have "Human" by Death. God, Akin, here it comes. Me and you are just going to fucking lose our shit. At number 33, released in 1990, "Rust in Peace" by Megadeth. Dude,
At least it's on there. I didn't.
Oh my God.
Number 30.
yeah.
I honestly did not think it was going to show up here. I didn't see it.
That's criminal.
I wonder how many of these how many of the 32 ahead of it we would probably a lot of them, I think.
At least they made it in there. I mean, I
Yeah.
seriously didn't think it was coming. All right, how many we got left?
We're at number 32. So at number 32, released in 1983, we have "Kill 'Em All" by Metallica.
Not
number
better than "Rust in Peace."
No,
We're
not
missing
by a long shot.
like one of the most influential metal albums of the '80s. Still hasn't shown up yet.
Okay, which one? Just see if it's in there.
Theater of Pain.
No, but I was gonna say, "Shout at the Devil." How's that not in there? That's freaking metal to the core, man.
I think that's more rock and roll, personally. I don't think it's. I would put them under the heading of rock and roll, personally.
Well, it's no
Really?
Bathory, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, right. At number 31, released in 1980, we have "British Steel" by Judas Priest.
This list blows.
Oh boy, Akin. Some of the stuff that they have, like, too far up the list. Here's one. At number 30, released in 1995, we have "Slaughter of the Soul" by At the Gates.
It's a great record. I will say that is a truly great record. But it's not better than "Rust in Peace."
No.
It's not better than "Power Slave."
Yeah, a lot of the stuff up above it.
Yeah.
Finally making an appearance, released in 1987, is number 29, "Among the Living" by Anthrax.
Oh, all right, we did make it. Jeez.
Yeah, about fucking time. Oh my god. Okay, here. All right. I'll take another band I don't get for 400, Alex. At number 28, released in 1985, "To Megatherion" by Celtic Frost.
Stop it. Don't even belong
Right.
on this list anywhere.
Yep. Number 27, released in 1993, "Wolverine Blues" by Entombed.
Again, doesn't even belong. We're all in our, 50s or roughly 50?
Yeah.
Roughly. When is the last time you guys have all listened to music for 30 years? When is the last time somebody came to you and said, "Holy shit, dude, you got to hear this new Entombed record"?
Right.
That would be 1 week from never.
Yeah, man. I mean, this is wow. Okay. Number 26, I think you could make an art, and I think it's probably based on influence. And I think here's where influence, I think, Akin, you might give it a little more weight for this record. At number 26, rounding out the bottom half of the list, released in 1985, "Bonded by Blood" by Exodus.
I hate that album.
I don't love it either.
I hate Paul Bailoff's vocals. I think they're horrible. When they got Zetro, they were fucking amazing.
They were definitely better with Zetro, and they were better with Rob Dukes. My favorite Exodus is the Rob Dukes records because they are just vicious.
I actually do like the stuff he did too. It kind of shocked me. I didn't think I would because I was so mad when he left. But
yeah, I mean, I get it's all the influence because all of those bands, without Exodus kind of running the roost there in San Francisco at the time, you're not going to get Metallica and Slayer and all those bands.
Well, John's band's gone, right? There's no Testament. Are we done here?
Yeah, No Testament in the top 50.
No Testament. Yep.
But
No
Bathory?
dude.
I could see listening to some Bathory and some Mayhem over, I don't know, Low.
JG3,
yeah,
you could put
The
Machine Head.
Gathering.
Yeah.
JG3 mentioned Machine Head, so did Rob. Yeah, I mean, I could.
Yeah,
put some
There's
fucking
plenty of
Machine Head
holes in
there.
this list.
yeah.
But again, he's pulling Emperor and Mayhem. Get out of here with this shit.
Bathory and Venom.
Even if you're going to pull those kind of bands, how do you not have Cradle of Filth in here somewhere, or Dimmu Borgir, or one of those bands that had legitimate success in the genre? I mean, stop it.
At least give me some Belfedge horror, whatever.
Yeah, Belphegor. Yeah,
I don't even know how you say that.
Belphegor. Yeah.
Give me some Belphegor.
Well, and that's the thing is like I think there's an inconsistency with it because as I said, I think you have to kind of look at it in terms of if you're going to rank some of this stuff based on influence, I think you have to do it all the way throughout because like you said, Chris, it sounds like he's just pulling shit out of his ass to go, oh, look, I had some of this or some of that, like just a name. And to have Rust in Peace at number 33.
There's a lot of lists that are out there that has Rust in Peace. Number 1.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that most of the time. Some days I do, but most of the time I don't. But ever to have it not in the top 5 is ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, it just, okay, if you want, which I wouldn't get into this debate because I would find you to be wrong, but if you want to debate whether or not Rust in Peace is Megadeth's best record, I might listen to the Peace Sells argument, but not really. And so if we're saying that, if we're saying that, Megadeth is like one of the most influential metal bands ever.
Yeah.
So their best record has to be way up there.
Yeah, it can't be number 30.
Yeah, 33. Like, what the fuck? I mean, if you wanted to put, if you want to, let's say, because I think Peace Sells was what, like number 6 or something like that. Number 8, I want to say. Let me go back.
No, it was way down
9.
the list too, wasn't it?
It was number 9. So if you want to, even if you let's say you flip flop them and you put Peace Sells at 33, that's still too low for Peace Sells in my opinion, and number 9 to be too low for fucking Rust in Peace.
Yeah. I agree. I totally.
I mean,
even if we go to some of the other ones, certainly Euthanasia is better than Bathory.
Yes.
Come on, it's not even in the top 50.
I feel like that Venom and Bathory pick; those were just like
Emperor and Mayhem and
yeah. Those were just like okay. We heard that these were like. No one's running around going, "Oh, check out the new Bathory." I think
nobody ever has.
Right.
Well, I mean, look. I mean,
ridiculous.
Look. Let's say you do put Rust in Peace at number 9. Would you then say, okay, if you were making your own list, let's say it's top 9, and Rust in Peace is number 9, would you put Rust in Peace ahead of Ride the Lightning?
Yes.
Would you put it ahead of Screaming for Vengeance?
Yes.
Ahead of Blizzard of Oz?
Yes.
Ahead of Vulgar Display of Power? That is a difficult one. That
not for me. It ain't.
One. Ahead of Rain and
yes.
Blood.
Quick yes.
Okay. Ahead of Number of the Beast.
That's tougher, but for me, yes.
Yeah. Ahead of Master of Puppets.
Depends on if it's Tuesday or Wednesday.
Right.
I go back and forth between those two.
Ahead of Paranoid.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
I mean, yeah. I'm with you on almost all of those, Chris. The difficult one for me would be Vulgar Display, I think. Just because Vulgar Display is so goddamn good. But I think I would have to, if you were saying, okay, you can only have one record, would it be Vulgar Display or would it be Rust in Peace? I think I would have to go Rust in Peace.
Me too. And Pantera's my favorite band of all time.
Yeah.
But
I feel like we're making a new episode that's going to have to come in the future. We've got to each come in here with our top 10 metal albums of all time.
Works for me.
That works for me. I mean, mine is I'm not nearly as well versed as you guys, but
John's will be Van Halen, Balance.
Well, but see, I don't consider Van Halen to be metal, so you're safe.
Yeah, but even if we said that it was country, you'd still say Van Halen, Balance.
Top 10 metal records ever by John. Van Halen 2,
Dream Theater.
Yeah. So
the new Van Halen song in Alex's book.
Oh yeah, I forgot about. I wonder if they're taking pre-orders for that. Anyway, so yeah, well, there we have it. The top 50 best metal records of all time per Loudwire. But we actually just went through the top 25. So, I think the list got a lot better and more understandable as we hit near the top 10. But yeah, there was definitely some absolute shit on there. So
please tell me it wasn't our friend Matt that wrote that list.
Yeah, well, he's Ultimate Classic Rock, so I think we're safe
right,
on that
good.
one. Now the guy does. All right, so we'll close with this because he kind of like justifies his list. He says, summarizing heavy metal history with 50 of its greatest albums is, needless to say, a daunting task. After all, if you view Black Sabbath's arrival in 1970 as the metal genre's year zero, simple mathematics would only allow for just over one album from each year. The point being, mathematics were no help to the Loudwire staff as we set about compiling, debating, challenging, and insulting, and finally reluctantly agreeing to the list you now see before you in the gallery above.
You know what the saddest part about this list is? And it's not necessarily the picks on the list. It's just an in general statement. There's not one record from the last 25 years.
Yeah, there is.
No, there's not. What?
Yeah, there was. I mean, we didn't agree with it, but
What?
there was not many.
Was there one?
Well, the Opeth was 2001.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 23 years. Sorry.
Tool, the Tool one was. I mean, System of a Down. Yeah, but you're not wrong. I mean, those are like 23.
20 years. So we've gone 20 years without a classic album.
Well, I mean, again, the influence thing rears its ugly head, man. That's
No.
So there you go. But all right, well, that'll do it for another episode of Talking Into Infinity. Akin, appreciate you very much, man. I'll throw you in the green room real quick. We'll talk after we do our close here. But get your plugs in, man, before you jump off here with us.
Only thing I'm going to plug, I mean, everybody knows where to find me, but the only thing I'm going to plug is my work with Metal Shop, Charlie Kendall's Metal Shop. We just did an interview with Tom Hamilton of Aerosmith, and it has absolutely blown up. If you just Google Metal Shop and Aerosmith, you'll find like 150 outlets that picked it up today. So check that out. It's Hamilton talking about Aerosmith retiring and Tyler's vocal problems and what they're going to do next. And, are they really retired or what they're doing? So check that out. That's probably good. ckmetalshop.com is the website. And then the rest is just the rest.
Chris Akin Presents and Seth Williams Show, and obviously the Classic Metal Show. So check all that out. The CMS Network, all of that fine programming. So once again, man, thanks for agreeing to jump on at the last minute. I knew you had some great knowledge here, so I thought you would, as usual, add some great stuff to the show, and you did not disappoint. So
well, and I got to see that beautiful haircut of yours, so it's all good.
It's not even, you can't even call it a haircut. It's just growing out. It's just there. There's no style to it whatsoever. It's just there.
It's style. Bigfoot style.
Yeah. Nice. So, all right, man. Well, I will talk to you in just a second after we sign off here. So, take care, brother. There he goes, the mighty Chris Akin, man. One of my very best friends in life.
Bye, Chris Akin. Bye.
Man, that guy knows his shit, dude. Yeah, that was fun. That was fun, Brian. I kind of figured this would be a good topic, and man, oh man, I was trying to speed it along so we didn't take too long, and here we are at 2 hours and 22 minutes. So rock and roll, man. Like at some point I got to learn how to do chapters on the audio stuff or even on this, but people can fast forward, right? I'm not technological enough for that. So
that was cool, man. I mean, we rip on these lists, but it's cool when somebody does take the time to do it. It's like, it's all, super subjective to all of us. Even if he's totally wrong on everything. But
right. Exactly.
But that was super fun. I want to do a quick plug. So kind of excited for our next show. We're going to have Bob and Bob from the Two Bobs cast. And what are we doing? We're doing 2005.
Yeah, we're at 2005 records. If you can't buy the Dream Theater record in 2005, which of course is Octavarium, what would you buy? So
yeah, we're gonna have Bob and Bob on from the Two Bobs cast. They do A to Z rock and metal podcast. I think they just got up to letter G. They just put out today or yesterday Ghost. That's where they are. So they're doing basically every single band they can think of, going A to Z, and sometimes they do a new and an old band on both letters. And going to be fun debating 2005 with them. Have you worked on your list yet or no?
Yeah, that year's a bitch for me.
Yeah, me too.
Pulling back the curtain. The reason we have guest hosts is because we're like, oh shit, I could barely find anything I like from that year.
Yeah, I know. So it'll be interesting to get their opinions and stuff that I'm sure that you and I totally missed or never got into. So.
Yep. I think I might throw a monkey wrench into the proceedings and say that I would buy Octavarium. So I'm going to change up the rules and say I'm going to pull a James T. Kirk and the Kobayashi Maru and say, it says you can't buy the new Dream Theater record, but everything else is such crap that I would jump over the counter, beat the shit out of the clerk and grab the Dream Theater record and run out. Right. I would commit a crime. So, so that's going to be awesome. Bob and Bob from the Two Bobs cast. That will be, God, what's the date going to be at that point? 5th. It'll be Thursday, September 5th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So tune in for that, guys. It's going to be a good time. We always love having co-hosts on. It's a great time to have some other people here give their opinions. And speaking of opinions, that we always love to have you guys in the chat, man. As usual, you guys absolutely never disappoint. JG3, Kale McLeish, Chastity Crawley, Johan Alexanderson, Mike's Musical Rehab. We have Chuck 74, Doug McCauley, all you guys, man. Jackal 1, Rob Karkuhangas, excuse me, and everybody else. Trying to scroll through and get everybody's names, but you guys are awesome. Thank you so much, guys. As always, we love when you guys tune in and give us your thoughts and kind of drive the conversation. So appreciate all you guys for hanging out for another episode of Talking Into Infinity. As I mentioned, we'll be right back here at all of our fabulous locations on Thursday, September 5th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, if you are watching on YouTube and have not done so yet, please click the like, subscribe, and notification buttons so that you're notified whenever we go live. Again, we are shooting for Saturday, September 21st to do a album deep dive of Queensryche's Empire with Paul Logue. Sorry, Brian. I'll see if he's got another date open, but that's the one I was shooting for. So we'll see if that's a possibility. If not, then we'll move it around for you. But yeah, so that would be kind of a fun little thing to do on an off day. But we got a lot of cool stuff coming up for the remainder of the year. We're only a few months away from the annual fan hangout. So that'll be at the end of December. So we got that coming up. We got some other cool stuff coming for you guys. So much appreciated, everybody. I can say that we got we had a very interesting person hit us up and gave us some information on the new Dream Theater album. And let's just say that it's not Metropolis Part 3. So, so hopefully there should be some announcements coming soon. I don't know that for sure, but that's what it sounded like to us. So fingers crossed, y'all. But anyways, appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in to Talking Into Infinity. We'll see you on September 5th. As always, guys, I am your host, John. He is Brian. And as always, y'all, Carpe Diem.